What would she feel on being dragged from her carefully chosen blank eternity and forced to be put in one of our understaffed, poorly equipped madhouses, reformatories, or jails? For in this Christian nation, suicide is treated as lunacy, a crime.
On our Oscars month episodes, we have covered Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives, The Holdovers, May December, and American Fiction. On this last episode before the Oscars, which we'll be live streaming on March 10th, we're going to be discussing Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. Poor Things, like American Fiction, which we discussed last episode, is adapted from a book. In this case, Poor Things, Episodes from the Early Life of Archibald McCandless, M.D., by Alistair Gray. Gray's Victorian-themed novel has many echoes of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and is based around the story of Bella Baxter.
I approached Alistair Gray. I had read his novel around 2009, and I immediately fell in love with it. So I reached out to him, and I went and met him in Glasgow. He was a very wonderful, energetic man. He walked me around Glasgow and showed me a lot of the places that inspired him. And after like a brief meeting, he just gave me his blessing.
First, there's her husband, Archibald McCandless, claims that a scientist named Godwin Baxter created her from a woman's corpse who died pregnant, and then Dr. Baxter stuck the unborn child's brain in Bella's head and resurrected her. He claims his wife's sexual appetite leads her on a journey around the world, seeking men, sex, and hedonism. This narrative is then refuted by Bella herself, who says that her husband has been consumed by Victorian and romantic culture and made it up. The film takes Bella's death and resurrection for granted, although she doesn't know that, believing that she's suffered a head injury, and is set in an extremely beautiful steampunk world that combines Victorian and futuristic elements. And quite honestly, some of the most beautiful sets and environmental design I've ever seen in a movie. Emma Stone plays Bella Baxter, a woman who jumped to her death from a bridge while pregnant. She was found by Willem Dafoe's Godwin Baxter, aka God. He is the world's most brilliant surgeon and decides to see if he can bring her back to life, but with her baby's brain rather than her own, which is dead. Bella starts out the movie with her adult body, but a child's mind, relearning how to walk and talk and function in the world. She runs away from Godwin Baxter and Max McCandless, eloping with Duncan Wedderburn, played by Mark Ruffalo, a rakish lawyer who falls in love with her.
Go home.
She must learn about suffering, sex, philosophy, identity, and class relations, and in that knowledge is able to liberate herself.
A lot of dead babies. Must be hot.
We must go help them.
How will we do that? We go down there. They'll quite rightfully rope us, rob us, and rape us.
The parallels to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein are obvious there, but also to Mary Shelley herself. Mary Shelley was a woman of the Romantic era. Her mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, was a feminist philosopher who died 11 days after her birth. Her father, William Godwin, the Godwin for which Godwin Baxter in Poor Things is named, raised her and encouraged her to live by his anarchist beliefs, but disavowed her when she eloped with the poet Percy Shelley, who was already married. Mary Shelley eschewed her mother's feminism, even as she built her own career as a novelist, writing Frankenstein in 1818. Poor Things explores the hedonism and liberation that women began to explore in this period, even if it was highly frowned upon in, as the movie puts it, polite society. Every man in Bella Baxter's life, both her first and second life, tries to control her, force her, mold her. Her first liberation, of course, comes from jumping off a bridge. As we learned, her first husband's control was literally at the barrel of a gun.
I'm not territory. The root of the problem is between your legs. I will have it off, and it will not distract and divert you anymore.
The second life, given to her by Godwin Baxter, is also controlled. Baxter sees her as his experiment and tries to keep her at the house, fearing her being unsafe in the outside world, but ultimately relents to her eloping. Bella's second liberation comes from knowledge. Part of that knowledge comes from learning that she isn't the result of a head injury, but that she has been resurrected, like Frankenstein's monster. Like in Frankenstein, this begs the question, who's the real monster? And the answer is quite obviously the men who try to coerce, threaten, and control. An interesting inversion of the original Frankenstein story is Bella Baxter's obvious beauty and charm, helped along, of course, by Emma Stone's performance. This allows for a very different exploration of humanity, as does Bella's position as a woman in Victorian society.
Victoria, your wife, threw herself from a bridge and died. Godwin Baxter found her, brought her to his surgery. He then removed the baby, removed the brain from the baby, transplanted it into my head, and reanimated me.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Yabiga. A Balkan Rakia spirit, go to yabiga.com to order a bottle tonight. Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/movie night extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. We also have a new Discord and a Letterboxd HQ account, so those are two more places to follow along with us. Links are in the description. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends has a new split LP with Lung, Adult Prom, available now on Bandcamp. Kristina Oakes is streaming on Twitch at Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics. Also recently joined YouTube, she's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch, and send her a coffee. This month for the Oscars, Conan and Kristina are co-producers. We will have both show and after-party content that they've produced, so follow along. In the Discord, as well as watch parties on Mondays in the Discord. Jay Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Renee Rune is the host of the Night Shift podcast with Bonnie Burton and Jenna Hayes, hosts Rune Radio, and is a blogger, writer, poet, and the head of Rune Agency. I, of course, am your host, Forrest Miller, everyone's favorite disfigured London surgeon. I've taken 5 milligrams of heroin between my toes for the pain, amphetamines for energy, and cocaine because I'm partial to cocaine.
Fantastic.
I just gave myself some happiness during this whole entire intro.
You got enough time.
That one wasn't even as long as some of the first. Like I've cut them down by a little bit. Yo, so the dumbest part of this movie that cracks me up every fucking time is Mark Ruffalo standing on the underneath. Yeah, he does the full fucking Streetcar Named Desire with like the Marlon Brando performance where he's like ah, 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 and then he's just like Bella and
go away.
I fucking laughed my ass off. Just
it's very funny.
Watching it the first time because I wasn't expecting it, and then watching it again in the Discord, I was like, dude, this is so stupid, that part.
Mm-hmm.
Renee, welcome back.
Hello.
It's good to see you. I'm glad you're on for this one too. I think this is a good one for you to be on. I almost saw your co-host at our LA show, but she I don't want to narc her out, but she got the COVID, so that didn't happen.
No.
I guess I did narc her out. There you go. Thank you, everybody.
There you go, please, with COVID now. The CDC says you can go about your normal life, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. COVID. What's that? Who knows?
Or maybe it's just go to work. I don't know. Maybe this.
So I know Andy saw it, if not early on, like about December, about the same time I did. But everyone else saw it fairly recently. Is that correct?
Well, Forrest saw it with his mom for the first time, which is actually the best way to watch this movie.
So I was watching it. I watched it. I think 10 days ago or like 2 weeks ago, or I don't know, within the last like space of time. And I bought it because as soon as it came out on Amazon, and my mom's like, "Oh, what are you watching?" I was like, "Poor Thing." She's like, "I've been wanting to watch that. I've seen a lot about it." And I was like, not knowing like what it was. I was like, "Sure." And then halfway through,
it's a needlessly horny movie where like there's like sex every 5 seconds. Yeah.
I am so glad that there's discourse about this movie when it comes to its sex scenes now, because people were shitting on Oppenheimer's one scene, and I'm over here like, "Oh, people are gonna say shit about Poor Things." And I think the reason why the discourse is happening with Poor Things is that Poor Things wasn't released in like most theaters in small towns like my own. You had to drive across state lines to see it in theaters. So more people are seeing it now because it's able to stream. So more people are like, "Oh my god, what?
Really
What?"
Like, I went,
which is really weird. Like you have this such strange discourse right now because the people who are also like freaking out about the sex in this movie are also
furious jumping. Furious jumping is what we call it. Thank you.
Yes.
Given happiness.
The whole
furious jumping. I love that.
And because some woman has tits on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think. Well, Chris Nolan, just because the Batman movies alone, right, is always going to have a huge profile. Yorgos Lanthimos, before this, I get that The Favorite was like Oscar nominated, and
I love The Favorite. I'm a huge fan of his work.
I am as well. And The Killing of a Sacred Deer, very cool movie. All the art house people loved it. But The Lobster is the only thing most people know him by, which is cool.
Yeah.
But like this is on a different level, but it's also in a very busy movie year. Yeah. And again, I happened to go see it in the theater, as I know a few people did in our world. One dude was just straight snoozing the entire time. Like the first half hour, he missed the first half hour of the movie, and he must have been so confused. I don't understand how you could snooze through this movie.
So he woke up when it became in color, basically.
Yeah, and he just seemed really confused too. And I was like, I'm not gonna even. I wonder what your experience. It's like the guy that left during the fake ending of Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's like, what is your experience like? But this thing did this movie, as much as I love it, third favorite movie of the year for me.
Yeah,
it did do the thing that seeing it in the year 2023 was very difficult, and I have a huge pet peeve of that. And I would be disingenuous to not apply the same criticism I have of other films to this, and I think that's too bad. But that said, now that everyone's seeing it, like Forrest, you understand what I mean when I say like Lily Gladstone, totally different kind of performance. But Emma Stone's great at this. She's really good. So she was in one of my favorite movies this year and one of my favorite TV shows this year, which is The Curse. She's amazing, but it's could not be more different between these two ones. Could not be more different. But yet they're pitted against each other because that's how it works.
And I can see why people think Emma Stone is more worthy of it, because she's in more. She's basically the actual lead of this film. She's in most of the scenes. She goes through a variety of emotions and feelings and nuance and all that. And I understand why people would want Emma Stone to win, because people think that she deserved an Oscar for this and not La La Land, which I kind of agree with that sentiment, because La La Land was
That's what La La Land was.
She drove across the lines to see.
I like Emma Stone. I even like friggin' what's his name? You know, the
Willem Dafoe.
Ken, no.
Ryan
Gosling. Ryan Gosling.
Ryan, I couldn't. His name wasn't coming to me. I like both of them, but no, La La Land. You couldn't pay me to watch it.
Renee, I missed you so.
But I my favorite line is actually no one picked up on this, but Willem Dafoe's God's like, I'm sort of a romantic, and I'm like, oh
no,
you should have said the scientist. You should have said I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. If he had said
it's a clear homage.
No,
I mean, come on.
Yeah, people did pick up on that. There are a lot of fucking Willem Dafoe memes where he's like, I'm something of a romantic myself. I just actually scrolled through 15 of them the other day because I was trying to find something funny for an after party image.
You're whore through our own means of production.
Every single line.
I mean, what?
No, go ahead, Conan.
No, just another great line. It's very
the
quotable.
lines, the delivery is phenomenal in this movie.
every single line that Mark Ruffalo says in this cracks me up. And
and his accent too.
And I want to punch him. I want to punch him in the, like he does a perfect like a guy.
He's a cad. He's a cad, right?
Well, the performance is also just so.
I can't get his horrible hair, like his horrible hairy.
Also, his accent kind of
face. Like it's still in my mind. I don't want to ever see it again.
Well, his
I'm glad
accent
that they did that. I'm glad that they showed lots of really unattractive men naked. I'm really glad they did that.
Yeah. There's all kinds of bad dogs all over the place. Yeah,
like bad asses with layers and layers. And I mean, I really like Mark Ruffalo, but like honestly, that it was not very forgiving for him. Like it was like, ooh.
That's why. That's why I loved it, because like, first of all, not since The Brothers Bloom has Mark Ruffalo plays such a great sleaze bucket. And like he is on point here, and apparently the shifting accent thing was baked into the whole thing. Like he was, Yorgos is like, no, do that. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, and he had his own rationale for it in the built-in world, which just does a great job of building a world.
Yeah,
right?
His accent was giving like Moon Knight with like with oh god. I'm going blank. Oscar Isaac, when he was doing his split personality, he was doing a very bad British accent. I'm like, it's giving that for me, and I loved it.
But what I love
is Mark Ruffalo's entire persona is contrived, right? Like,
it's a contrivance. Yes,
pushed himself into being this like pretentious Victorian era rake figure, and he's not. Like the entire time he's whining, he cries, he smashes his fucking head on the table when he gets.
And he lives with his mother.
Yeah, so he's not that, but he's contrived this persona of himself as like this rake that kind of, he's wild. He just, he sleeps with girls and just leaves them behind and all this stuff. And it's just
like, what is it? You remember? He's like, well, you've been fucked by the best now. And it's like, all right, dude, whatever, bro.
but as opposed to, Bella Baxter, who literally because of her brain, her developing brain, right, like. Cannot do that, right? Like she can't contrive a personality. It's literally just for her, at least to start with, in the same way for a child that it's just like the mental like stimulation of whatever it is right in front of you, like you go towards that. And
a lot of people have their own thoughts about, this is like borderline pedophilia,
that's idiotic, by the way.
Yeah, she's mentally 10 years old, so she's a child when she's basically being raped by Mark Ruffalo. I'm like, she's mentally 10 years old when she's discovered what masturbation is, though. You're forgetting that she masturbates with a fucking cucumber.
That tries to masturbate a nurse. But anyway, but before we even get to that part of it, right? Like,
I'm sorry, grabbed her hairy business. Thank you.
Yes.
But it's true liberation that she finds in this, as opposed to the fake, like as the chat says, like libertine contrivance that Mark Ruffalo is putting on, which is like, I'm just, I'm a guy, I'm kind of running around, I have like this robe, I'm sleeping with everyone, like this is liberation for me, and it's not. It's just a contrived persona that a child is kind of hiding behind, as opposed to Bella Baxter throughout the entire thing does actually have her own liberation through her knowledge, through experience, through not being confined. Like I think control plays such a big like role in this movie all throughout it, right? Like
she has an arc, but if you say fell asleep like 50 minutes before the end, maybe like you would think it was a different movie.
Born sexy trope is what you're thinking of.
Look, it's more my it's more my whole identity. That's all I'm saying. But anyway,
it's also like it's Frankenstein, but Frankenstein's hot. Like they're like, what if we made
Babenstein?
What if we made Frankenstein hot? Because the big thing about like the story about Frankenstein's humanity and the humanity of all of us, and that they're coming up with within that story is like he's ugly and everyone's afraid of him because he's ugly. Not the actual Frankenstein in the book like talks and everything. And he's
the actual Frankenstein in the book is the doctor.
It's the doctor, but Frankenstein's monster. Okay, actually, but like he talks.
God,
and everything.
Really,
and. Like, the actual book, the monster is not a monster. It's the people that are trying to kill him that are the monster. So they're exploring that, but this adds the dimension of like, like Emma Stone being hot, which kind of completely changes the dynamic because people like even when she's being
what a pretty retard. Yeah, exactly.
Like even when she's being insanely weird, like people are still like, oh wow, look at her, she's so free. But then when she actually does try to be free and run around like that, they're like,
they hate it.
They're like, that's not, you're a whore, you're a big whore, and I don't like that. Like that. See, so it's like it's these different dimensions of like masculinity versus femininity and all these things, and it really just distills so much of it down into like these very funny sequences.
Yeah, and I just love the language, like how if you really paid attention, if you paid attention in your English class, you learn about how prepositions are put together, verbs, nouns, like so. At first, her language is very broken because she knows very few words, so she has to figure out like how to say things for them to understand like what she's talking about. But as she gets older or mentally older and more educated, her language becomes still somewhat scrabbled, but very sophisticated at the same time.
There's an arc to it, and there's a logic to it that has to do with like her curiosity towards the world, and her place within it, perceived by others versus perceived by herself, of which everyone's trying to basically more or less dominate or control her. Which is why I think it's fantastic that the Frankenstein story's been told lots, but this is one of the few ones I think kind of adds to it. Yeah. Like it adds to it, and not like it's trying to do a feminist treatise, because it would be bad if you tried to do that. Like it would just be like, hey idiot, here's the thing, right? And this is not that. This is not a judgmental thing. But by the same token, people are like, oh well, it's basically pedophilia. Shut up. Your license to watch movies has been revoked. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's the law.
Yeah. The amount of people who are starting that discourse, I'm over here, they're like, well,
they're like Disney adults. They can go pound sand.
Again, and I was trying to explain this to people. I'm like, so is it wrong for her to discover? I'm like, most girls...
Having sex with a Disney adult, by the way, should actually be considered pedophilia.
I mean, most young kids, if you believe Freud's psychosexual stages of development, kids start experimenting with themselves down there when they're like 3 to 5 years old, and then they're over that phase because they know like boys have this part, girls have this part, what they've been taught by the science.
And how horrifying would it really be if the baby, right, like is like a grown person, right, like it has the mind of a baby, but it's
well, look at the casual violence she does, where it's like it's like it's different when like an adult human being like punches you versus like a baby, right? I mean,
That whore. Anyway,
Renee, I'd be curious your thoughts on this because you're on this show, so you should maybe speak.
No, I'm just letting you guys go ham. Like I know a lot about the book, and I was sort of already knew what it was about, and I was waiting until I could see it here in Australia before I could make any comments about it. But I don't know. I just fucking laughed the whole way through this film. Like, it's
so funny.
I actually just laughed.
Well, it's a Yorgos Lanthimos film. You're gonna laugh the whole way.
Yeah, I just found it really funny, and I just felt like, I think everyone's gonna take away from the film what they want to, and if you're going into this film looking for certain things, you will find them, because we've seen that, like the arguments and all the different types of reviews are just so polarizing for this film. And I think, if you go in with an open mind, you get things out of this film that maybe you won't if you go in looking for those things.
Maybe take a nap first for that guy that's in the theater.
Yeah.
Like you missed a lot, dude.
My dad was like, for example, my dad called me last night and said, hey, and he's like, oh, you're doing that Poor Things movie tomorrow, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, oh. And my dad is fucking chill out dude, and he's really fucking funny, and he likes some fucking crazy shit, and he was like, not for me, mate, not for me. And I was like, okay,
my mom was curious.
I think, but the key to it is, I think he probably fell asleep during the black and white part.
Yeah.
Let's be real. A lot of the audience
doing in Conan's theater
are just not. They're just not. Putting. It's like when you put black and white. You put subtitles. There's a whole lot of people that just suddenly can't function.
And Yorgos loves fisheye lenses. He loves using fisheyes. Loves them.
And they make an incredibly strong point. They're needed in this film, and it's amazing. Like the cinematography in this film is sensational. Like,
all right, so I have the guy talking about the lenses.
Yes, lens talk.
Yeah.
I'm here for this.
It's Yorgos Lanthimos.
Lens the most. Yeah, we're gonna work on that too.
I'm gonna get it down before Sunday.
Exactly, we'll get it.
Beginning of the process for Poor Things, me and Yorgos tested an awful lot of lenses. We had one day where we tested over 50 lenses, I think 40 or 50 lenses, and like loads of different kind of varieties of optics. Yorgos wanted to get something that was optically very, very impossible, unfortunately, but it was to try and get a lens that was something like a 12 millimeter lens that would zoom up to 150 millimeter. And it's kind of impossible to do. And we really did exhaust all avenues. And then we ended up finding a lens that was 16.5 to 110 millimeter zoom, which was made by Zeiss, and it's called a master zoom. And it's huge. It's a really big lump of glass, but it's actually a really beautiful lens. And we ended up using that an awful lot because he wanted to try and do a lot of developing shots through a zoom. And the whole film, if you watch it, has an awful lot of zooms in it, which is great. So once we sort of decided on that, we went to choose the other lenses. And Yorgos obviously likes wide angle lenses, and we used the same ones we used in the favorite, which was the 8mm Nikkor and a 10mm. But he was really keen on trying to get a wider wide lens as much as he could, and we had used a 6mm on the favorite, which I thought was the widest lens you could get. But then what he was keen on trying to do this time was to get a sort of a vignetted wide lens to create a kind of a porthole sort of feel, so that you're looking into another world. It gives that sense about it. And what we happened upon was that there was a lens called a 4mm Optex. It's primarily made for 16mm shooting, but when you use that lens on a 35mm format, you get a kind of a vignette, and it worked out perfect because it just created a full circle within the frame. When we tested with it, we kind of went, that's pretty interesting. And then every time we felt the scene needed to go a little bit further, Yorgos would go, get the 4mm, or as the actors used to say, is like, they, you know, if they're not getting the scene right, Yorgos would go, get the 4mm. This is the part of the film where Bella Baxter has left her home in London and gone on an adventure with Duncan Wedderburn, who's a cad, to say the least. After drinking herself into a drunken stupor and eating all these cakes, then she comes back and they go to have dinner, her and Duncan, in a hotel sort of restaurant. And that scene we shot actually in a location. We'd been kind of spoiled to it a little bit with having studio soundstage space to work in where we could put lights anywhere, and it was huge. It was the size of 4 football pitches. It was in the biggest studio in Budapest, whereas the dance scene, we had to kind of adapt and work within the limits of the location. And that was actually quite a bigger challenge than we had expected, because it was a difficult space to light because it was an old building. What was beneficial was this big skylight was just above the dance floor, so it was sort of like a lovely top soft light in a way. We had to build a big tent around this daylight skylight. It was great, but what I started realizing, because I was a bit slow to pick it up, I was like, is everything a bit green from that light? And I started going a bit like to the gaffer, have you kind of turned the lights green? And they go, no, it's all tungsten. And we had them all set to tungsten, and it was basically because the stained glass looked like it was clear, but it was actually green. I did bring that up to Yorgos. He goes, I kind of like it. It looks pretty good. So that was another kind of happy mistake in a way, and it kind of counterbalanced all of the lighting. Yorgos doesn't really have lights on set. We had a lot of practical lights on the tables, kind of on the walls, sconces, and loads of practical lights. So there was a kind of a good ambience within in the space, and the skylight at the top was helpful in creating a little bit more light. You know, he doesn't want lights on set, so we'd light everything so it's got a 360 capability of shooting anywhere you look at any moment where he decides to move the camera. That is totally coming from his way of filming. And other films I've done, I would maybe bring in, you know, a light on set, and it can be done a bit easier, but you've got to kind of put your faith in the fact that even if it doesn't look so lit, it probably will look better because it's just a bit more realistic or something. And I totally love the way he does that. I've gone through my own other work doing that a lot more, that, you know, something that might look not so beautiful is beautiful because it's just the way you film it, not necessarily the way it's lit.
You, like me, are a creature of freedom in the moment.
Bella sits down after the dance. They're both like exhausted, and Duncan is absolutely in love with her at this stage. And then she starts blinking at him, and he's like, why are you blinking at me? What's going on? And then he looks around, and there's this older gentleman who's looking at them, and he's doing this weird blink, which only in a Yorgos film can be sort of, you know, you go, what is going on? And she's blinking back, going, well, it's only polite that I blink back.
Love that. He has an identifiable style.
Oh, yes.
I mean, like, I had only seen The Lobster before watching this, and I went back and I watched Sacred Deer and I watched The Favorite, both of which I loved. But, like, dude has style for days.
Yeah, that's why I like it. I like them a lot.
I mean, do you see what I mean when I talk about Oscar picks? Spoiler alert for the after party. That like production design, it's like I'm torn. It's like Barbie or Poor Things, and I love them dearly both, but it's such different sides of like a same ethos of just building a world. But like, it's all about those fisheyes. He loves those fisheyes, and no one else does it. So it's like his thing. It's just laying there on the table.
Yep.
For anyone to take.
I feel like a fisheye lens, like the reason that it's not as popular as like it could be is because like skateboarding and like music videos have like have relied on them so heavily, and I mean there's some directors that come out of the music video world, but like a lot of directors I think try to avoid that aesthetic now.
I'll make it quick. Quick sidebar. I'm shooting pictures for the new Conan Neutron Secret Friends record today, earlier, and actually right after we do this as well. However, the guy who's shooting the pictures was talking about how like that aesthetic, that 90s skateboarding aesthetic, that there's kids on Reddit like trying to figure out how to do that with these 4K phones that are like almost too good. Like the resolution, and they want to like downscale it to make it look like the shit that they like, which I think is, I was like, that's so cool and so strange at the same time that they wanted to look like, no, I want to look like a Tony Hawk video, or I want to look like whatever. And it's so like, wow, imagine, because think about like our 28 Days Later episode, right? And talking about how like one of the things that makes that movie so great is like the shitty digital camera.
A film that is forever lost.
Well, the other,
and Killing Hanging Brain, of course, too. But
the other thing that it really does well with this in music videos, like in the 90s, people really liked like setting them in like insane asylums or like madhouses or whatever.
Right.
And if you do a fisheye lens, you can kind of just be in front of in a straitjacket.
Oh, it's crazy.
Any white wall.
It's Jamiroquai.
Jamiroquai.
That's so funny. Oh my god. I just had like moment. But yeah, you can't use a fisheye in a lot of films because it doesn't work within the story, within the world that you're building. So you could try and use it, but your film's going to look stupid.
It distorts things in a certain way, and like if you're not trying to have things distorted in that way, like this movie is about like you're slowly watching visually her kind of come together. So like at the first it's black and white because she's doesn't understand the world, and then like the first time she leaves, they have this like these beautiful watercolors. And then the next part, it's like an underpainting. So like it's like literally building her into like a portrait of her. So at the end, whenever they're sitting in the garden, it is beautiful. All the colors in the world are there, and it's fantastic. But like you had to work your way up through all the different scenes, and they also divide up things nicely. So
well, there's actual chapters. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is another thing that Yorgos does, because he did the same thing with The Favorite too. And I think if you that's like
the intertitling where there's a cool image and like, wow, what's that? That's
he has an aesthetic. And if people are like, I'm like, if you're gonna shit on the movie because there's too much sex, at least respect the aesthetic.
Who are these people, by the way? I mean, I know who they are. I don't need to literally, but like, who do they think they are, and why do they think anybody cares about their prudish sensibilities? Because
they're like, I hope it loses. I'm like, well, it's not going to win Best Picture, but like, you could calm down, guys.
Sex is awesome, and you are not. Thank you.
But
sex in film is a form of art, and it's part of her journey.
It's just people that like.
I'm gonna be the abnormal person on the panel and say that I actually don't agree with all the sex in the film. Sorry, I don't. But not for the reason you probably think. I just think it's not like I think a lot of it is necessary that's in the film. But I think there's probably at least like 30%, 40% that could be shaved off. That could have been filmed better to illustrate.
Look, there's about 30% of the pubic hair that could have been shaved out too, if you ask me. But some of those guys, let me tell you.
I mean, we're taking a really complex source material, and yeah, I mean, I think he could have just not relied on that so much.
I'm just glad we're moving on from like the one scene in Oppenheimer. Like, I'm like, thank God.
Well, all right. So the reason that I think that people were so jarred by the scene in Oppenheimer is that Christopher Nolan is basically sexless, and everybody was kind of
I don't think of him as being somebody who.
Christopher Nolan is sexless and has no fun.
I think that it's off-putting in Oppenheimer that they're like sexless. That would look like in their mind.
You're going a little funny.
Did somebody put a filter on? Forrest,
you get like a pedal board and you just hit the pedal by accident.
Yeah, it sounds like someone put a cocktois on your mic or something.
You sound like the adults from Charlie Brown.
Yeah, did you go through puberty on Charlie Brown?
Anyway, it sounds okay now. Say again.
No, I just think Christopher Nolan being sexless, and you're looking at a sex scene through the eyes of somebody who nobody thinks of as having sex or being sexual or like
and
having
plus
sexuality.
The scene in the interrogation room or whatever is through the perspective of Kitty. Like people forget. I'm like, no, that's her perspective of all the rehashing of the affair.
Well, I like the bodiness of this, and I do think it's excessive, and I think the excessivity is the point. And like, I'm glad he did it.
It's actually
it ain't that hoity-toity like Victorian era bullshit.
Well, so many of the scenes of coitus are like some of the least sexy things you've ever seen in your life.
I love that.
All of the scenes when she's in the brothel are
it's like, okay,
hilarious, and they're so necessary.
Yeah.
But I think some of the scenes, like, you know, with Ruffalo weren't necessary. Like, we didn't need that many of them. Like,
I'm just like,
we got the point. But like,
yeah, you've been fucked by the best. We understand.
I mean, I do.
Why don't you let Renee finish her point though?
No,
why don't we start with that?
I was just agreeing that I say, okay, I get. If it's just that part of it, I get that. I get.
Yeah, I'm not saying the whole film. I'm certainly everyone. I'm not a prude. I worked in the porn industry, yo. I'm not hating on it at all. And what I loved about the nudity in this film was that there was as much male nudity as there was female.
So much dong.
Finally.
So much mid to bad dong in this movie.
Oh yeah, and not just I'm not even talking about dong. I'm talking like really bad lower backs, terrible arms,
some terrible buttocks. Yeah, I mean it's
very
worse than like himself.
Rolls and falls. Like we're not talking hot like. We're not talking Cillian Murphy type dudes here. We're talking like
no, we are definitely
that gross
not.
dude that you're seeing walking into a strip club. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and that's what
there's a three-legged
and that's
hooker
like
over
every
there.
day, which was like shit that was every day in the Victorian era as well. Like we forget that, like, you know, because we're so used to seeing everything really homogenized and very, very nice to look at and all of that kind of stuff, which is just not reality. And that's why I loved all those scenes in the brothel, especially when, like, it was just like she just got like the worst people one after the other at one point.
And then that guy was like, I want to instruct my boys on how to do sex.
Yeah.
Like,
that was so fucking weird.
I was like, oh god, this is
that's
even
what
worse.
conservatives think sex ed is in public schools.
Right. Yeah.
I think you know what? I'll be like, you know what? This is gonna be like this. I would be like, have y'all seen porn things? I'm like, that's what the conservatives think is going on in the schools.
Porn thing.
Porn.
And Andy, isn't that an actual scene in Meaning of Life?
Yes,
too?
where like Doug Cleese is like banging this woman in front of the class, and he's just like, "Now, you must understand." Like he's like instructing the student to like, you pay attention, stop.
I forgot about it. Sorry, Renee. I know you don't like Monty Python. I don't want to.
It reminds me of human sexuality class.
I hate it.
My human sexuality professor in college literally drew had a thing of like a vulva and was showing like a diagram of a vulva, like a physical, like looked like a plastic thing, and he was telling guys like how to, you know, he's like, women don't like when you go like this. He's like, gentle massage, and I'm over here like, and there's only 5 guys in the class, and I'm just like, they were beat red, and I'm over here like, yeah, keep going.
I would have looked probably a lot like you telling that. I'd just been like, okay, why is this a school?
I was like, great, we're learning this shit in college. We're full-blown adults.
The scene.
I appreciate the tips, but
when there was the father with the 2 sons, and you know the son asks like, how do you like quicken it up, like finish it, and she's like, just choke or like stick a finger in his ass, like, and I was just like, hilarious.
Oh, great.
Like, there must be so many dudes in the cinema who just went.
No, I was.
My booty hole.
Yeah, I was laughing my ass off. It was great.
It was super funny. But yeah, like, my issue wasn't so much with the gratuitous. Like, it's not like, oh, there's gratuitous sex and I just don't like the sex. It's just that I think it has there was moments of it that just were over, like, not really necessary.
That corset that Mark Ruffalo was wearing in all those scenes threw me off.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, just take that off, dude. You're fine. Women love men but then again, men had to look a certain way back then. Like if you're playing some aristocratic type of individual, you got
he was trying to portray that kind of, you know, like, you know, the rich kind of libertine type dude, and they had access to that stuff, whereas other guys do not.
He's so good at that specific kind of dude.
Yeah.
And it's
Oh,
great to actually see him, because he is a good actor, and people forget because
Yes.
they used to see him as the Hulk and whatnot. It's like, no, that man can act, and honestly, like seeing him be like a disreputable brute is fantastic. He's wonderful.
Oh,
in it.
100%. And I think and a lot of the scenes were like also like I was actually like laughing at the expense of the males. Like I was just like, oh my god, you're like so gross, or like loser, like, or just the embarrassment for them of how like tragic it is, like in certain
The
bits,
one guy,
the
she
way that
smells
they're like,
him. She smells him.
yeah,
and goes,
just like the way they behave. It's almost like,
Yeah.
and she's just like, like, yeah, 10 minutes of that and get some money and then I'm out. Like, it's just like kind of a joke, and it kind of made me, parts of it made me laugh because I know that's what it's like with me and my girlfriends. Like, when we're talking about duds and like, like stuff like that.
Right.
It was like I definitely had a bit of a lull at some of those scenes that were,
Sure.
But there was like some of those bits I felt were like super, like they were really important to showing like those two parts about like, often when we see a lot of sex and brothels and stuff in films, it's always very like either like super, super empowering, or it's like super, super fucking degrading and terrible and ruins the character's life.
And we think of like the men as like these like high class men who go to these. No, it's like any other man who can afford to pay it for a good time.
It's like a 2-pump chump over the big gulp area. Exactly.
Yeah. Except for the priest who had like natural talent and
you
have a kid. Priest.
And she's like,
this guy.
But I like that because it's mundane, right? And of course it's mundane.
Yeah.
Sex work can be mundane, as it turns out. Right?
And she
it
learned
usually
that the hard
is.
way, because she was like, "Why can't we pick our own men?" And the woman's like, "Well, you can't.
Not how this works. Yeah,
that's not how this works."
There's there's like the one guy, Mr. Chappelle. He's the first guy that's in there, and of course my head went, "Oh, that's the white
Dave Chappelle."
But no, he's the most French-looking person I've ever
he's
seen
like
in my life.
doffing the cap.
That's like the first guy. And then she's like, "So how does this work?" And he just like gets on top of her and does like 3 pumps, and then
pump, done.
Which from a lot of my sex working friends, that's incredibly common in that industry. Yeah. These blokes just go in. I think that it's the fantasy of the situation, I guess, maybe. Right. They get off more on the situation of going to see someone in, doing something naughty, more so than the actual, or they're just not getting laid with their wife at home at all, and they.
You guys see the deleted scene? So, I think her female companion is getting like a gynecology like exam, and so Bella's walking around like learning like about the stirrups, and everyone's like, and she's learning about this thing. She's like, why does that have to be uncomfortable for women? Like she's asking all these questions, and a lot of people are like, this scene should have stayed in the film because it helps Bella like make another realization that she really wants to be a woman of science one day.
Well, yeah, because it shouldn't be a surprise that near the end of it, like, spoiler alert, everybody, that like the capstone of the film is the worst dude in the entire movie by a long shot got through science.
Yeah.
But of course, like I feel like if you need that spoon fed to you, though, that you don't understand the narrative. Because remember, like early on, Max says to Godwin, and it was like, I thought you were raising her to be your paramour or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Love her.
I mean, sure, whatever. We regret the error.
Something of a romantic.
But like, the point is that he's like, no, not at all, and that he says the whole thing of like it would take basically like an entire power city for a month.
He was experimenting himself by his own father.
Of course, but like the point of the fact is that like that's when you establish, because early on we don't know that like no, it's like a parental relationship here, which again, when you don't know what's happening, like that dude behind me that was asleep, and you lack that context, of course the natural thing you imagine is dudes be sleazing, because dudes
but I
be
mean,
sleazing.
You know what though, I felt like I didn't see that. I felt like it was Edward Scissorhands. When Edward Scissorhands, his owner. I not once when I started watching this film felt that character was thinking of her sexually.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
I didn't.
But I think in today's society,
100%.
that needs to be there. Whereas the Bella has an interest in science, I feel like you can keep a little closer to the chest about we should figure that out.
I felt like Max was the most boringest person ever. Not gonna lie. I just
Yeah.
he bored the shit out of me. Like, what are you doing?
He's a good dude, and that's it. That's his identity. He's a good dude.
And good guys don't.
Good dude, but he finishes he still finishes last. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, because her female companion actually probably does a lot. Is
Well, he just he's like, I don't want to. When she says, like when she wants to get down and dirty, and he's all like, no, wait until we get married. And he's all like, yeah, okay. And then like the bit when even like throughout it, like I'm like, man. Crazy.
He could have maybe gotten her to stay if he didn't wait for her to get married.
Yeah.
Well, he's
covers genitals like she asked.
Yeah.
He's a good dude to a paralytic level, which I have met dudes like that where I'm like, okay, here's the thing.
You gotta respect what women want.
You're a good person, but you gotta toughen up a little bit.
Yeah, bro. Like there's that level of
there's no award for being a gentleman, all right?
No,
and that's the thing that like all of these like this Disney adult discourse like misses, which is like, what world of like you were betrothed at 14 to your high school sweetheart, like do you realize that not everybody has that life experience?
Well, I guess
nor should they.
In Max's defense,
thank you.
Right? In Max's defense, he's dragged into finding out that you can actually put somebody's brain into another person's head, right? Like nobody knows it's the first time someone's ever done that.
Sure, yeah,
assumably, right? He's brought into that. And
it's a lot to take in.
Do you want to marry the girl whose like I put the baby brain into the head, and like it has to be like you're kind of just thrown into this. And he's like, oh, just take a bunch of notes on her. And he's like, okay. Right. And then he's
you falling for her. He's like, yeah.
No, but he's like taking a bunch of notes. And then he's like, hey, do you want to just like marry her? But then you guys got to live here. Like, it's a lot to take in, I feel like.
It is a lot to take in. And Mark Ruffalo is just like, yo, want to go travel with me and bone? And she's like, yes, I do.
Yeah. and maybe learn about socialism along the way.
Well, it's very
not from Mark Ruffalo.
No, from your two friends.
No, I know.
But like you don't get the...
More likely to learn about Me Too. Thank you.
Oh, Me Too. I love that.
Sorry, Renee. Please go ahead.
Renee, I want to hear your thoughts on this too, because the one thing that I was thinking about
that was pretty good. Come on.
The one thing I was thinking about with this is like there's kind of her first life, right? Like there's a violence begets violence kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
Like he has the gun pull on everybody the entire time, which is like it's such an over the top sequence of like I mean he's both like very, very creepy, but also like it's so over the top that every time he just pulls out and there's the whole like kindness and cruelty thing that happens throughout this. But I feel like it's interesting that she obviously commits suicide because the guy is like like he's literally like fucking Hitler pretty much, or like
he was gonna remove her clitoris at the end. I'm like, no, I cannot stand this.
But it's like when somebody dominates you through that raw violence, right? The only way to liberate yourself from violence is by ending your own life or by ending their life. Okay. And there's like kind of a violence begets violence. Whereas
there's a third option.
Her second. Well, yeah, but you got to learn that, which is the second part of her life is that she's liberated by knowledge, right? Like she's liberated by her curiosity and by science. And even though her, like Godwin Baxter should have probably told her like what she was or something in the beginning, like it's still by learning about herself and by learning about the world around her, she liberates herself.
It's an avenue of discovery, sure. And am I the only one that thought at the end that they were going to put Godwin's brain in the jerk's body?
I totally thought they were going to.
I thought that's what they were going with it. I'm like,
and then there's a goat there.
I thought it was going to be the goat. I was like, okay, she said something about a goat, so I'm like, I'm going to assume something's going to happen with the goat.
Split decision on that, I guess. But
I thought the ending with like that particular part was fucking hilarious, but like I guess that comes back to what I was saying earlier about like don't go into this film with an open mind, because the ending is nothing like this in the book at all.
No,
it's a completely different story. Like the ending is nothing like this. This is something that this director created. So it actually changes the entire narrative of the film, the endings, like in both. So just go in. Don't think about the book if you've read it.
It's a happy ending. Whatever.
Well, the Max McCandless character, right? Like in the book, from what I understand, I haven't read the book, but like he's kind of like an asshole, right? In the book, like he's kind of like, oh,
He's
my
not
wife
as-
went out.
yeah.
He's like the book is kind of him going off on his grievances about how his wife, who he claims has an infant's brain put into her, like that story. But he's like, oh, like my wife, left and she went and boned a bunch of guys and came back. It's like his grievances put down on paper, and then
yeah.
part of the book is her being like, my husband's fucking crazy. That's not true.
Then there's a third
book
part.
has like lots of different. So the book has a lot of different voices. It's not Bella's. Like that's the best part about this film is the film takes that and actually, it actually gives Bella's character agency, which she doesn't really have in the book. Like the book, it's a small part of it is her perspective. The rest is from the males throughout. So that even like there's what do you call it? Like journals, letters, like all sorts of different things from different
it's like a found footage kind of thing.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces, and then there's Bella. But like this is where this film levels up that story because it takes, like I said, it takes Bella, gives her agency, it makes her, the hero of her own story, and takes her outside of, what I guess like, what you can imagine when you're reading, but like this just goes crazy and beyond. And I think that's an extra level to this whole story that I just really liked about the whole thing.
I mean, that makes me sound like I wouldn't be super into the book. And I'm a big fan of books are books and movies are movies. And I'm on this very show, Open Face ranted about that on certain episodes, and we will say no more. But that said, like I've heard the complaint of, well, it's not the book, it was ever. Yeah, but this is a movie, right? So let's engage with it in the context it is. So it sounds like all the things I loved about it are the things that he changed for the movie.
It can be a very loose adaptation.
He changed it with a purpose, like because basically the book is so complex and there's so much going on. You couldn't make a film that would. I don't feel you could make a film that would be great because it's taking on too much stuff. Like the book is
congested.
Yeah, and the book has so much politics in it, like so much, whereas it barely touches on it in this film, I feel like. And that's not necessarily...
Forrest is here. You said politics. We appear.
Yeah.
It touches on it. He does say the line that all of us communist socialists love to say, we are our own means of production.
But that's what I mean. It alludes to the fact, but it doesn't actually... The book, it underpins the whole book. Like,
but I think it would have been a distraction. I think it would have become something lesser than what it was to focus on the political aspect.
You needed that balance of her like sexual discovery plus like gaining knowledge and learning, about class conscious and politics. If you try to really do a straight adaptation of a book, it probably would have been best off as like a mini series of some sort or like a 6-hour long movie.
It would have been just too complex.
Because you're also like Rashomoning it too, like you're getting different perspectives of the same story throughout the.
See, I'd rather just have Bella's perspective.
Exactly,
that's the most interesting character.
That's her perspective that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I want Mark Ruffalo's perspective? Like we all know what's on his dirty little mind.
I know what's in
a mini series that's just him going places.
Banging hooers.
Trying to bone. Yeah, exactly. Danny DeVito in the role. Yeah.
Yeah. Hooers.
I love that there's like an almost like beta quality about his character, whereas he has to punish her. He has to go get the alpha dog, like her first husband, the fucking insane, like psychotic general.
Oh, yeah.
And so he comes in, he's like, there she is, get her. Like
well, I love that they played on that, like something that is, I don't know, like, well, whether other people know it, but I mean, I guess I've watched a lot of films like from old films from the like 50s and 40s that have and stuff that's based on Victorian times. And I guess what the common theme is always like the woman, getting to a situation, either love ruins her or, what happens within it ruins her. They always end up in a sail asylum, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I love that they actually turned that trope inside out and made him that like little poor snowflake who just like ended up, in an asylum and like, blaming them for like everything and just a completely broken human, because I feel like that's because he was such a jerk off, but also, so it's kind of funny, but also it's just like something that like you don't often see. Like it's always like the woman who in those times who ends up being, the victim of something from somewhere. And he's sort of come in with this big, like, I'm like Mr., best sex in the world, like me and my dick, he's just like Mr. Everything.
If I can't have her.
Yeah.
Her
it's
husband
like
can.
And then when she turns around, and says, like, this ain't gonna fly. Suddenly it's like, oh no, like, and it plays with that. Like, I hate to say that this movie, like, even though it's based on that book and whatever, it still makes me a little bit sad that, like, in 2023, that some of these, like, issues are still in films and they're still permanent.
Yeah.
Like, that bums me out, like, a little bit. It's just like, so much of it, even though it's talking about it being in Victorian times, it's stuff that's happening nonstop.
It's still relevant. Yeah. It's
and you can still put it to your own, like, life. And the situations with the control, the misogyny, and just like, here's how we box women in this particular way, and there's all these little interactions that kind of play to it.
Right.
But whilst it's not all, like, I guess it's not exactly the same, but still parts of it very much resonate.
Yeah, and even like in the Victorian era, like if women were actually having pleasure, seeking pleasure, and actually experiencing pleasure, and you got your bit, you got your little number, boo. Like, you couldn't, like, it was not meant. It's back then, sex was not meant to be a pleasurable experience for women for some reason. Yeah, only men.
That's where the term nymphomaniac came from. It was based around females in those times who were outside of the norm, who actually enjoyed sex, didn't just want to lay there for their husband, and that was seen as abnormal, that she wants anybody else or any other thing. And it was the same, with hysteria. It was like any woman who's like gets a little crazy or does something, she's got hysteria, and then they would get him in get him a lobotomy, put him in an asylum for a couple of months, and then let them out.
Like women who experience menstrual cycles, like everyone was like, oh my god, this is something that's unnatural.
Well, lovely point, and that's one of the reasons why I love the Martha character so much.
I love Martha.
I know.
She's played by Hannah Shaigul. I don't know how you say her name, but like she's in 8 Hours Don't Make a Day. She's in a bunch of Fassbender stuff. So she was a oh my god, that girl, like, so great actress in like the 70s, like how Emma Stone was now. Yeah. And she's so good, and that character is so good because it gives you the context of like, you have Bella basically being, what's like, hey, I hope you use your hand to pleasure yourself or whatever it is. Amazing.
She's not offended or anyway. You would think her status would be. She's like, oh honey, like,
she's super even keel about it. She's just like and by the way, I just gotta say, I love her as an actress, and it's so cool to see someone that's not just like one of the 3 allowable older female actresses be in a good movie with a with an important part.
Someone called Rebecca Ferguson.
I know. I got no. I like Rebecca Ferguson.
There's like a European kind of.
She was like the German. Yeah. So Fassbender stuff. Again, I like the more like kind of sci-fi stuff of he did the best, but so much of it was transgressive sexual politics. Of course, he was a gay man who did a lot of cocaine and shot guns. You know what I mean? Like, it's like whatever. There's got to be a lot of sex stuff. And weirdly, the only one we've done on this show is Mother Custers, which is a very weird outlier.
Mother Custer.
But she was so important to a lot of those transgressive films that were part of the early new wave of German cinema. So someone like Yorgos, who pushes the boundaries forward film-wise, who pushes the boundaries forward and like is trying to do something new that also references other things that was before. Gilliam, Janot, etc. And doing these things in a way that recontextualizes them and makes them cool. It's like taking what is ostensibly the Frankenstein story and adding something new to it that is empowerment without being like, standard girl boss Clinton 2016. I'm with her
the hell
level.
Zack Snyder was doing in that god awful movie, whatever.
Yeah, Zack Snyder's in a different fucking universe from this movie. But I love, like, it's a cultural shorthand to use Hannah in that way for a character like Martha, and to have them be there and not have it be like arrows pointing down. Make sure to pay attention to this part, people. Like, it shows that this is a smarter movie than a lot of the critics that are apparently Disney adults don't give credit for.
Oh, and they put her next to like Gerard Carmichael,
who's also great as the cynic. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. I love that character because, and I felt like actually the character that I actually liked the most was his, like, aside from William Dafoe. Like,
well,
and
I don't know if you've ever seen
as a person, I liked Ruffalo, but like he's a douche character. But as a character, like, I liked him because I was like,
It's a good character.
I don't know if he was meant to be straight or gay, but I was like,
it's super unclear, but that's okay.
Yeah. But I was like,
they're friends.
For one,
He's
he's
not
the
like he's not a
only
boy
person who
toy.
seems to like kind of know what's going on and has a kind of level head. And he's like, this kind of, and he's like in this weird kind of Victorian times, and he's black and possibly gay. And then like, I was just like, this
And
guy's
upper
cool. And
class.
his best friend is like Martha. So I mean, he seems like the cool kind of dude.
Well,
But he's also a bit of an asshole.
Well,
Like,
he's also
He's a little too harsh to Bella, in my
Too
opinion.
harsh. Yeah.
so hold on. He's also about the only person this whole movie not trying to bone her. Just
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the other thing I liked about it.
He's
He
trying.
wasn't.
He's trying to convert her to
his weird
cynicism.
ethos. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the
Cynic.
thing about Gerard Carmichael's comedy, like if you ever listen to like his stand up or like he did a show, like it's all very cynical. Like he actually is kind of our modern cynic. Like a lot of his jokes are like he like understands the world, but then he has a very, very negative and kind of like ironic distance from it all. So like so as someone who's been a big fan of his for like because the Gerard Carmichael show like was like a really interesting take on like sitcoms. Like it was a really interesting version of that. Like it was the first one that I felt like actually it had like David Alan Grier as his dad. It was the first one, and he was like a MAGA black guy. Like he got into Trump at one point. Like that's like it was the first time that I felt like they actually had an honest sitcom that like actually talked about politics the way that people actually do. And like I don't know, I just feel like Gerard Carmichael was like perfect for that kind of cynicism in that role. He's like
So he's perfect for the role. To be clear, as an ethos, I think cynicism is one of the laziest and most culturally devoid of value ethoses that you can have, and I think it needs to be fought against at every turn. That said, works great in the narrative.
Yeah, but that's the thing here, right? Like the thing is that
it's great in the narrative because
Yeah,
she
like-
hasn't been exposed to that, so it works
Yeah.
perfectly. That she gets
she's like, you're just a little boy. Like you're kind of just a scared
right.
little boy.
She
Yeah, like, that's
recognizes it immediately. Yeah.
Well, because that is kind of the ethos of cynicism. Is like, oh, we can't fix anything, so we don't have to. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Why try?
Yeah.
Why bother?
So he sees someone who has
Great.
hope, and he just his version of that is like a little kid looking at like a like sandcastle you built and
Yeah,
crushing
let's
it with his hand, right?
crush
Like,
the sandcastle. Let's flip the card table. Whatever the analogy you want to use is.
Yeah.
Show her
But
the
then
dead baby.
I love the other lady in the brothel was the other person too.
She was the other one. She's another.
I love that bit where she said, you need to experience everything, sadness, horror, like everything to be able to, and like that. I was like, yeah, man, I resonate with that. And she was a pretty fierce bitch,
Yeah.
with all, she had like a full body tattoos everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, you go. Lady.
Well, she's another like that chick character actress too. I can't
Yeah.
remember her name right now, but
And then she
she's
does
really
that
cool too.
snap where she's like, she just delivers that hard truth that's really like good, and then it's like, but now I'm gonna get back to the point of the story, which is go and make me some money, bitch.
Yeah.
Which
And I also
is-
love the
that
line
one
where
reminded
she's
me
like,
of, It's Always Sunny, where Frank is massaging Dennis's shoulders, and he's like, "Come on," and Dennis is like a male stripper or whatever, and Danny DeVito does like the same kind of like pimp character that's like, "Come on, you're like my favorite, I love you," like love bombing, and then fucking slaps like
right.
Is that the one where Dee dates the stripper dude and holds like a stripper party for him? And he goes and strips in front of his and gives like a lap dance to his own teenage daughter or something like that.
I don't remember
Because they did a scene, they did like a thing where they're trying to do like.
I was just saying that pimp thing always reminds like because that pimps always do that in movies, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I just want to talk about her eating somebody's lobes. Come on, let's.
Oh yeah, the low beating,
Yes.
yeah.
Which
And
is,
then when she tries to bite her,
So
like,
Catherine Hunter, she's in Orlando, which is great. Tragedy Macbeth recently.
Orlando.
Yeah, Orlando's. We have not. We totally should do Orlando.
yes.
She's very much a that chick character actress.
Tragedy Macbeth is great too.
I did like she's in Andor too, actually, if I remember correctly. But anyway, that's I wanted to give her a shout out because we already gave Hannah a shout out because like again.
Yes.
And it shouldn't be an exceptional thing that like, oh, you're casting women of a certain age to be in a movie. But
Yeah. You know,
but it is, and it should be something that's encouraged.
And I mean, the worst thing is too, is like it takes
almost
you
got to
a
it.
lifetime.
Almost got real close.
Sorry.
Real
I'm
close.
sorry.
I was just gonna say it's something that it shouldn't be exceptional, but it is, and so I'm going to celebrate it. That's it, Andy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's also like you see so many like as an actor, you spend your entire life like learning the craft,
Sure.
and it's terrible because like women have to master it like by the time they're like 18.
Before they turn invisible completely. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because
over
in 5 years you're going to be a mom, and on a TV show, like
and then another 5 you're gonna be grandma, even though like
like when Tom Holland and
then
Emmy
you don't get any
Ross
jobs.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and she's great. The madam of that place is like, what a great character, right? And that like honestly dominates that whole chapter of the film in a good way.
When we were watching it in the Discord, Maddie, like Kristina's mod that went to your show, they pointed out that the revenue sharing between the pimp and her is actually like she gets a better deal from that pimp than Twitch gives the creators.
Yep, 50-50, baby.
Well,
she was also seemed like she was her favorite. She did. She was getting special treatment there.
She seemed like she saw a little of herself in her. I think.
Yeah. Like
she only takes a third of the profit. Twitch takes half.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny.
It's weird. All the talks about profit and lobes. I thought I was watching Star Trek for a minute.
Big Ferengi energy, for sure.
Can we talk about the evolution of Bella's movements, like her walk? Because I was saying this in the Discord. I wonder if she watched like her kid, like or toddlers, or how they move.
Okay, so I have a clip that I pulled that I put on Twitter, but I have it here of her talking about how she came up with the walk.
That background cracks me up, by the way.
I mean, we had our rehearsals for Yorgos' film are not traditional in the sense that you're, I don't know, rehearsing your lines and blocking. You're sort of playing games and doing the scenes, but not as they will be done in the film. It's really more of kind of a bonding experience, and it's funny and playful, and what Mark was describing. And then Yorgos and I just had separate rehearsals just to work on the walk, basically, and the physicality. And so we mapped out 5 stages of her development, kind of from, most primitive to most evolved. And then we could use those as kind of a reference while we were shooting, in case we had to hop around, which we did really only in the beginning, have to hop around. That was it. We just played around with things and
hopped around quite a bit.
Thought about what felt right, and it didn't feel right really to pull from anything very literal. Like I tried to watch some videos of toddlers and things, and then we were talking about it, and it's not the same because they're developing and their bones are growing and hers aren't, and so it just felt like it could be its own thing, and we could invent that. Which was great. Confusing because you have to come up with it, but great to not have to, mimic anything.
Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
By the way, I should say she produced this movie. So she was not only like she's not only the star of it, she was treated as a creative collaborator.
Because she did it's like Margot and Greta. Like the same thing for Barbie.
I think like with Yorgos and Emma Stone, it's gonna be like a Nolan Murphy situation, because this is her. I think this is like what her second film she's done with Yorgos. So I'm thinking they're gonna do a lot more.
They seem to work really well together.
Yeah,
and she likes doing her as a muse, kind of like I mean, it's more egalitarian. I was watching him talk about it.
Like a canvas, you can kind of paint her. You can work,
and she's down for it too. That's.
I mean, watching this film, I was like, she puts herself in an extreme level of vulnerability in this film.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, there's, scenes where, it's just not, like the kind of sex scenes where she's, dogging away with everyone.
Yeah, Emma Stone's Bush was not on my 2024 list.
She's not that vulnerable there. It's the scenes where she's like, like the scene when she's got the ball in the mouth and she's strapped up and she's completely naked and we're zooming in on her bush. And there's all these bits that are very personal that are usually hidden, and the actor or the actress doesn't actually do that bit.
Yes.
And this film, there was
she's
even
right there.
There's bits with a couple of bits with Mark Ruffalo where you can clearly see she ain't got nothing. They've got nothing on. There is nothing on.
Like no sock, no
there's no
flesh cover horseshoe thing to cover.
Literally, whoopee. Yeah.
Well, and I think Mark Ruffalo is probably a great collaborator for that kind of thing because I think that he's someone who, I mean,
He's
his
like a respectful, soft daddy.
Yeah.
Women, yeah.
His values
He's
are very,
also the
very.
first guy to get naked in a Marvel movie.
He's very, 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 I think, progressive about.
I guess so.
His
Sure.
value, I think in an actual way, like I think in a, like not in the.
He's like a safe space.
Yeah,
he is like he's got that vibe about him, like, and even when he does films where he's like a like a kind of romantic lead, he's always that guy who's kind of like the good guy, the fumbly, like, but good, respectable dude. Even if he's got a
funny because I feel like Willem Dafoe has the
problems.
opposite energy in everything he does. Like Willem Dafoe comes in and it's like
sleazing it up.
Well, no, it's not just sleaze, but it's also like you don't know what's gonna happen. Like
he's a wild card. He's a wild card.
It can go anyway with him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a safe, like he's almost like the harbor for her in a lot of ways. And then Mark Ruffalo is obviously the person who's the wild card in this. And it's like he does they reverse those roles really well. But in my head, like I'm like Mark Ruffalo feels like he's the safer guy to be with. And Willem Dafoe, I'd be like, look, I'm gonna.
You don't know what he's gonna do, yeah. Well, and that's why, like again, I invoke Brothers Bloom, Ryan Johnson, which a lot of people didn't see, but like he's a different. Mark Ruffalo's a different kind of disreputable character there. He's much more of a cat in this, but like he's good at it. I mean, it turns out dude's good at acting, right? He can play more than just the one role. So give him like good roles to play. And I feel like with Emma Stone, when I first saw her in Superbad, I thought she was very impressive, right? But then it's like
Easy A.
Yeah.
What? Sure, great. But what's she doing now is so far afield and beyond that. Like between The Curse and this, it's like she actually might be like one of the generation's like best actresses.
Yeah,
like I seriously believe that.
Yeah, and it reminds me.
I've always loved her as just a like.
I've always totally.
Yeah. I mean, she's a movie star.
Quirky, cool, kind of like I don't know. Thing about
she's got like the quirky beauty to her. Like she's not like she talks about I got colic, so my voice is more harsh. But I always compare her to Margot Robbie because when we think of like her in Wolf of Wall Street, I feel like Margot Robbie's trying to do roles that are not like people. She's like, people saw my business, and she's doing all these different roles. But Emma Stone's like, well, I'm not on that level of Margot Robbie's beauty. So I'm willing to like show bush, show my tits, show my erect nipples, show like do the most like pure debauchery and still convey emotions that other actors probably couldn't even do in this role.
Are transgressive and they have depth to them. And in the same way that we talked about 12 Monkeys, that both Brad Pitt and Die Hard, what's his name? Bruce Willis were trying to prove that they could do. Right, I only fumbled on that because I know Forrest immediately wanted to jump in. I want to get that in, but like that, it's something where people that get known for a thing, right? You can get stuck in that thing, right? And she's done a really good job of like you can say a lot of things about Emma Stone, but like, oh, she only does one kind of role. No, that's not one of them.
She does not.
so what I was gonna say,
this film really showcased, gave her that platform where I feel like I never thought she was a bad actress anyway, but I never thought she was a sensational actress. I thought she was a damn good actress, but not.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Like she leveled up big time, basically.
Watching this, I was like, the things with like just those things with learning, movements and vocal cord noises, facial articulation. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
All of those things are not easy to do. They're fucking hard.
Yeah.
And you could, if you wanted to say, oh no, she's not just walking around this film just going like close off. Like she's acting her fucking heart out when she's not jogging. You know what I mean? So like the people who hate the film, they're saying she's just jogging all the time, so that's why she's getting it. That's why she got
really upset, I guess. And I was watching a thing where she was talking to Olivia Colman. And she was saying that she actually got extremely upset that a lot of people were talking about the sex scenes and the nudity in this movie, and they were like, almost like this is something about the male gaze, or this is, which is not. It's obviously fucking not. But they were like, there's the male gaze here because it's a male director and a male screenwriter. And she was like, she was like.
Women love to get naked on film. What the hell? Like,
no, but she was like, I was the producer of this. Like,
I was like, she's some
to this.
Yeah, she's some poor dupe that just got tricked into doing it. Yeah, all right, sure, whatever.
She was like, I produced this movie. Like, I was the one. Like, I was creatively coming up with these choices with Yorgos, but like, we were coming up with these choices together. What you see in the movie is something that I've come up with, not something that I had no agency over that they just told me to do. Like,
exactly. That's what I was just about to say, Forrest.
That's why
nailed it with your words. You're on my
yeah.
you're on my fucking good
That's why we
list.
have intimacy coordinators now. You know, they
Well, we
can't-
talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like, again, it's been twisted in that sense where it's like it's my biggest thing that I hate about when, like, you know, I'm all for it. Like, I'm a feminist. I'm all into that shit. But I, like, honestly though, I fucking hate it when people take it to that point of where they remove any agency from a female and everything becomes a victimized thing. I don't.
Well, how can they come to the rescue if they have agency?
Exactly. Hard to white knight somebody with agency.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It's about me. It's about me
Well,
here.
I think there's also a fundamental misunderstanding in our society about like exploitation and what that is, and when things are exploitative. And I think that's on purpose because we live in an incredibly exploitative society, and if you don't know when exploitation is happening and when it's not, then they can exploit you easier. But I think that like we kind of see
stuck in that trap of where everything now is that, and we kind of ignore the fact that there are people in all of these situations who want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, and we take away that person's power and take away their personal agency by just assuming that all people are victims or it's something working against them. And in these kind of situations, films like this, where it brings all these cool things to light and, you know, has this discourse where we're talking about this, it's real disappointing that
the discourse is not as nuanced as the art itself, which is meant to challenge. It's meant to challenge, and a lot of people just don't want to be challenged now. Period. Like, not even just in film, but in general.
Yeah. Oh, sex is gross. Ew.
Well, and this movie has to challenge you because, I mean, you know, part of like growing up is challenge, right? Like, but like,
of course it is.
As she explores these worlds, I mean, one of the worlds is just pure fucking violence, where the only form of control and you know, like the only way that people can get like domination and control is like, you know, literally at the point of a gun. But then it moves on to like the more philosophical with, you know, like the Hannah and like Martha, when she's sitting in there, and you know, the cynicism and the two sides of that coin. And then, you know, obviously socialism, which that's where she comes out with on the other way, because the world
you turn socialism into a bro. You do.
It's my fucking bro, Karl Marx. You know, no, but like there's something.
Boy,
if there was like a football match for socialism, you would be fucking right there in the front row, man.
He'd have like face paint, like
water bowl, a fucking finger.
You're a fan of socialism? Let me hear 5 of their albums.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but you find out, right, as a kid, as you grow up, right, like you're in your parents' house or you're in your family's house, and I mean, presumably, if you're not, you know, going through like a really hard childhood, like you're in kind of a safe space, and they create this world for you, and then you go outside, and the world is cruel, and there's fucking disgusting things that happen, and there's poverty and things are, and you have these characters kind of guiding her through this, almost in like an Alice in Wonderland kind of way, right? Like where each person's kind of represents something, and they're showing her a different part of this entire thing, and she's learning about it, and then she comes out on the other side like, well, I don't like, you know, I want to liberate myself through something besides violence, obviously, and jumping off a fucking bridge, because of course you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, also,
but she becomes a fully actualized person, though. That's the point.
What I'm saying is like, there's something like she sees suffering, and then like, you know, fucking Harry's like pointing this is, and all of the men are stunted in this, right? Like they're all children.
Oh, terrible. Yeah.
So they're
even
like,
Max is like, he's stunted in a different way, but yeah.
They're like everybody down there would rob us and rape us and rope us, like if they could, right? Like that's their like thing, or it's like hoard as much money as you can, and you know, be this weird like libertine person, like this guy pretending that he's, you know, like a cad, or I mean he is a cad, but like pretending he's like this
pretending he's a sophisticate.
Yeah, and
sophisticate. Love it.
I mean, or there's something like you know, the Martha character who's kind of just accepted this and accepted her life the way it is, just kind of hanging out there, which I think is a good ethos personally. But you know, but that's a different generation.
She's totally my vibe. Like I was like, man, that's my vibe. I would be straight up there in the bar, like, what up, Martha? Like me and her would get along like a house on fire.
Yeah, where's that Disney Plus spinoff series?
Also, too, it's like, you know, us, we grew up with 9/11. We saw the worst before we were 10. So what's safe space? Like, we already knew the world was cruel and shit. So it's like, whatever. Just gotta Make it
but
through the next week.
Don't make it a generational thing, because I can go off on that if you
Oh
want.
no!
But
Hey, man, anywhere in England, Victorian times, it was grim.
yeah, it's
Everyone was
it's all
grim except
brutal.
for
It's all brutal.
It was black and white.
It was black
but
and
I
white.
love-
It was
I-
fish-eyed. It was crazy.
I love the fact that
Red,
she's like, I want to, she realizes that she can help people through like science. Like she probably
Right.
comes to realize that she can't fix the world, she can't do everything. She's like, I want to be someone who can actually, she takes after what God did.
Take it off her ostensible father. Yes.
Yeah. She wants to, she's fascinated by science. She's fascinated by how she was created. And so she comes to a realization that, I can, if I study and pass an exam and, enough I can do this. I can
And
take
it's-
over my
It's
family's
interesting.
legacy.
It's interesting because, like, if you think about it as breaking generational trauma, think about what Godwin's dad did to him. Like, literally
Oh,
experimenting
so much
on him,
worse.
right?
He's
Yeah.
like, he did this to me, he did that to me, he did this to me, he did that to me. I'm like,
took out my glands to see if I could.
But he also made a lot of accommodations for his dad. Like, he didn't talk about it as though. I mean, he talked about it.
He had
as-
admiration in a weird way, is what
like,
it sounds like.
He
Yeah.
had trauma scars there clearly, but he didn't see. He didn't blame his dad, or didn't seem to harbor any negative like anger towards it. It was just like, oh yeah, he did this and that and whatever.
And he didn't pass it on, too. He did not
Yeah,
pass it
he
on.
did,
He didn't react in that same way.
His dad also said something like, "You need to cut with kindness," but it's like, dude, he chopped off so many parts of your body. He didn't do that with kindness. He literally like,
No, he did it with kindness. It just was an asshole.
That's why it's
thought
gonna win
to
best
cut
makeup.
the parts to
Anyway.
start with.
But
And the
I
scene where
like
she's
that.
smashing that when she's doing the eyes, I thought was really.
My God,
like,
it's
funny
so
and-
intense. Yeah.
Oh, and that's one thing I
Say
want to say.
squishy, squishy.
I don't know if it's an American censorship thing. Maybe it is, but like before I, watched it and I saw the rating and saw, it's like there's a lot of gore in it and all this sort of stuff. I was waiting for the gore.
Yeah.
Do I
It's
have a
not very
problem?
gory at
Blood
all.
is gore. Blood
Like,
is
where's
gore.
the gore? I was like, there is no gore. Like I was like, seriously, where's the gore at? Because I ain't seeing any. And then I was like, what? And then of course, like the sex, it wasn't really sex. It was just nudity mostly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it wasn't really like
And it was vigorous jumping, really. For
Yeah.
the sex scene.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't like I
But
read
oh my
comments
God,
that were
she
like,
showed
it's
herself
it's basically
doing an
pornography
orgasm
and all
face.
that kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, it's not really. You're just kind of seeing like this, like
Well,
you're not really.
the one guy
Absolutely.
fucking crab walked.
I
The
mean,
one
if
guy
you got-
crab walked. The one guy crab walked with his dick out.
Oh, that guy was gold. That was fucking.
I was losing my
brilliant.
mind in the theater.
Wait,
I woke up the dude behind me again. It was crazy.
Oh my god, I forgot about that too.
I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
Renee's dad is happy that he saw that part.
What's
Fucking
fascinating?
gold. It was
Before-
because, well, like I said, I've got a lot of friends in sex work, and they tell me some stories that are fucking far out. Like, and yeah, and it's just like that's why, like, just
Like poor things is my life. Like I've had Johns like that. Like
yeah, it's like, and they're like, yeah, dude, like this one time, this
I-
one time that. And I'm like,
really,
more
what's
common than you think. But yeah, the crab walk, that was like the best thing ever. I was just like, that is so good. And she's upside down, like laying, like just kind of like this weird, like, I don't even know, like it's very libertine, but also like I don't know what she was doing. Like she was just having a great old time while Krabby's walking around doing whatever he's doing.
Crabbing it up.
What's interesting is that like a few days before I saw Poor Things, I watched Bailey Searing's Dark History podcast on Hannah Lamar, the woman who helped create Wi-Fi. She
Oh,
basically-
sure. Yeah.
She did a film called Ecstasy, which apparently was the first woman ever showing like orgasm face, experiencing like an orgasm. And so like she had that follow her career, and no one really took her seriously as an actress or even as someone who was a woman. of
Meanwhile,
science.
she's actually brilliant.
Yes.
Like beyond like being a good actress, like she was actually a brilliant human being. And yeah.
Which again, like everyone thought, Bella Baxter, like, she's a bit of a sex pot. She's a whore. She's a this, and I'm like, she's a woman of science, though.
Well, that's why it's almost a different movie if you are like the narcoleptic behind me apparently and fall asleep at the end of it, because like you need the ending for the rest of it to make sense. Otherwise, you think it's the lesser movie that a lot of the critics think that it is.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also like the whole thing about it being in Victorian society, like, which is a time, it was the first time that really like, people started thinking about feminism and liberation, the first like gasp of that pretty much with like the suffragettes and like, different movements like that. And you have to like imagine that, a part of the whole like trope about prostitutes and like in this time in like brothels is the poverty, right? Like they're trying to make ends meet, and that's what's sad. Because if you look at like royal courts or whatever, like the courtiers, like the women that kind of just hang around there, they're also kind of doing the same thing. Like
they do exactly the same thing,
yeah.
but not for the same means. They're just like, I just want to get out and get on, everyone. And the other women are just like, this is the only skill I've got, like, because I can't like I've never been to school, I've never worked, I've never done anything, and I need to live, I need to feed my children and myself. So what can I do? This is the only skill I have that I can actually make money from.
It kind of reminds me of the Pretty Baby movie with Brooke Shields and Susan Sarandon, because Susan Sarandon plays her mom, and Brooke Shields' character pretty much grew up in that brothel, so of course she ends up becoming a child prostitute, which a lot of people have opinions now about that film, and I tend to kind of agree with them.
Pretty Baby's a little bit like ooh when you watch, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think people thought this was going to be, and it's like no, that is the most surface level reading you could possibly give to a movie that's incredibly smart. And that's one of the things that I get so annoyed at the critics of it. It's like you're engaging with a different, far dumber movie than what this actually is.
Well, and the only other thing that I really like was thinking of with this is like the life of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein,
who's amazing and another amazing woman. She's fantastic. Yeah.
But the thing is that her father was also named Godwin, like that's what the character's named after.
Yeah.
But like she eloped with her husband, who was like this Percy Shelley, right? Like it was her father's devotee, but he was also kind of like this poet guy, this like libertine.
He was very much a libertine, like
get
out there.
So he eloped, and her father, who was like the first anarchist in England, like he's the founder of that movement. So the whole thing is like, oh, do what you want. Like this is very individualist. Like as soon as she leaves, he fucking disowned her and was like, oh no, you can't do that. You know what I mean? And like so, the character of Bella Baxter feels very inspired by not just Frankenstein as a book, but like her story, like her.
Which is too bad because they've tried to make her actual story a few times and it's not good. It's not good.
Well, because it's like a period piece in the way that something like this, which kind of interprets it, because this is somehow both like a Victorian story, but also like futuristic. Like there's rockets going by.
This is like next level tier. Like I felt like this is like he leveled up like that whole Victorian thing. Like it's like we finally have a period piece that's like kind of a modern period piece.
It's like a steampunk vision board, but that isn't all it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hate the word steampunk.
It's
I know. Well, I know, but what else should I call it?
I know what you mean.
Kids'
Well, to me, it's almost like kind of Dali, is it? Like it's very Dali. Yeah. Parts of it seem like I kind of see it in that kind of surrealist Dali.
In a good way.
Those fishbowl lenses help that too. Like
mixed with, like you said earlier, that Alice in Wonderland stuff. Like the bits when she's like, there's the dodos. And like she's small, like, and all the way they shot some of those bits in the older Alice films, like that kind of vibe.
The chapters are extremely surrealist, and we can go to Letterboxd one-liners if you want, but the chapter markers between them when it's like her and it's kind of going in and out into
Black
clouds.
Moon, the Demi-Phil Black Moon is what I was thinking of. Yeah, absolutely. Like where it's sort of like it seems dangerous. But it's also got that surrealist Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll kind of thing going on. And there was like an undercurrent of sleaziness somehow through all of it.
Yeah, and those title cards, I have to say, remind
Look up Lewis Carroll. I'm not wrong.
Those title cards also remind me a bit of Night of the Hunter. Like
the
woman underneath the water, which I think we have. Forrest, hit it.
Do I still have it? Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there she is. There she is.
Yeah, it's got kind of that vibe going on.
There you go. No, absolutely.
Mark Ruffalo, don't he never sleep?
And also, everything in this film is so beautiful. That's all I wanted to say. I just remembered. I'm like, I did my hair very Bella today.
You did, and it looks wonderful. Well done.
Your fortune. I love that. I love your fortune.
The costumes are so fucking good. I could have watched this film with my eyes closed. Like, not eyes closed. Other way around. Like with the sound off, with my eyes open.
Your ears closed.
Yeah,
eyes open, ears closed. Yeah.
Ooh, but I could have just watched this film without listening to any dialogue because it was so fucking.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Like I'm saying, and this is
the world, the imagination is amazing, and then the costumes and how everything looks, even in the ones that have been built on a soundstage versus the ones that are actually
right.
Where it's filmed.
The painted backdrops, all black narcissus and whatnot.
Like everything is so meticulously done. And then when the guy was saying that they're like however many football fields, I was just like, man, I hope they didn't destroy that when it was done.
I know. Like I want to go to there.
Can we talk about the music really quick before we go to?
Yes, we can.
Please.
It's great.
So this is guy's. I have a
the end.
literally everybody in this.
It's really impressive.
Interviewed. This is this guy's first movie soundtrack. He's a musical
blows
artist.
my mind.
It's his first movie soundtrack.
There's hope for me yet.
It was intense.
So, Poor Things is your first film score, is that right?
Yeah, that is true.
So, how did you become involved with Poor Things?
Yorgos was aware that I'd done this opera, although there's no trace of it that you can listen to online. What he had listened to was an album of pop songs I released in 2020, which is an album of pop songs. And he liked it, I think. And I think he somehow, in his, very, interesting way of viewing things in the world, thought that could lead to a good film score. And it definitely led to a film score. But yeah, that was the basis in which he got in touch with me. So reasonably unexpected.
And it's kind of curious because I don't think Yorgos has used an original score in his earlier films. And I wonder why he, and perhaps he discussed this with you, why he felt that Poor Things needed an original score.
Yeah, I think it was actually quite a relief to me that the first director I'd worked with also hadn't worked with a composer before. So we were both very new to the experience. And it was like being, young lovers, and we're both a bit like, a bit furtive, a bit, coy with each other. So that was probably helpful. And we both learned along the way how to make a film score from scratch. I'm not sure. Aesthetically, Poor Things is such a big departure from his previous films. I think you could argue that the cosmetics of his earlier films, as abstract and weird as they are very visually grounded in some form of reality. Whereas this one's such a departure from any, aesthetic objectivity that the first thing we agreed on is that the music had to be part of the film exclusively. No external references, no temp scores. We never discussed any other composers or films or anything at all. It was so. I think Yorgos really had this idea that the film, everything sprouts ex nihilo from the genesis of the film and from nowhere else.
I like that guy. He says it's like he just watched a snapshot from the news, and it's just like some random. And he's like, yeah, and then I did a soundtrack. Like,
right.
Yeah. The other thing too is I love that description of the two lovers because like there's a confidence to the soundtrack that you don't get that you're surprised by. It's his first soundtrack because you just hear that bow drag across that bass string and that one part, and it's just like it's great and so confident to do that.
Yeah. As the actual musician on the panel, I must agree with Andy that so many people, especially first-time composers, they try to do so much, and then when they do try to do something, it's usually referential to something else, which is bad. This works because of, well, hold on. This is the alien nature of what they're doing works so perfectly with it in a way that it wouldn't if it was a more traditional score. And you only get that kind of thing if it's someone that is relatively new to it, frankly. So it's perfect for him. And it's another example of the fact I think this is far and away transgressively the best Yorgos movie. To the point that it has made me retroactively like some of his earlier stuff more. But I think this is something that, I'm sorry, I like it way better than The Lobster. Way better. And I like The Lobster.
I wasn't a huge fan. Like The Lobster, it's just there was so much warping going on in that movie. No, it was hard. It was very hard for me to watch. Even it's hard for me to watch surgeries happen in movies, right? I get very I don't know, I cringe.
But this is the best version of his thing that he does, right? This is a guy that has consistently he's built his craft up. He trusts the people that he's with to do great things. Look at we mentioned the production design so much. It's a crazy example of the fact that even a production design, and this is a preview for the Oscars after party that we're talking about, that look, man, it's a coin flip between this and Barbie for me. And they're both literally created worlds that you hope could stick around, you could hang out in. But by the same token, the cinematography, the music, it's impressive. And it's impressive in a way that, again, people that think this is apparently a different movie entirely. Like, what movie did you watch? Because I watched the good one. Like, I don't know what you watch. It sounds terrible.
I mean, I think people have to bring their own ideological bullshit to whatever it is, right? Like,
well, again, it comes back to: do you want your thought, your ethos, your political ethos, or whatever it is, reinforced, or are you willing to be challenged to think about why you think that way? And for a lot of people, honestly, we're breeding people to be simpletons, where it's like, no, I want to see only the things that I agree with all the time. Well, that sounds incredibly boring.
And a problem with this movie and versus
except for our viewers, of course, those are not
problem. No, a problem with this movie and that ethos is that it gives you a lot of, without really like hammering it home, it gives you a lot of different things, right? Like it gives you the cynicism, it gives you like conversations about hope or like acceptance or socialism or like it gives you a lot of
not hammering it home. It's sort of doing almost what's happening to Bella is that she's being opened up to all this stuff and it's around her, but it's her decision where she's going to go and where she wants to take it. And it feels like that as a viewer, is that he's not hammering like, there's subtleties to different things, but he's not like, it's not like a massive agenda. And I think when I was reading an interview with him about the politics that, he left out of the film versus the book, he sort of said, like you just get drowned in the politics and the film, the story's about Bella and you just lose all of that if you get too far in it, which is why I chose, to stay away from it. But he still has enough of that subtleties of different things that kind of enough to test people's,
So just like how it goes from black and white to color in this movie. I was on the crappy webcam the whole time. I was not on the good one. Sorry, everybody. So I just changed it to the high def one. So you're welcome.
Yeah, it looks much better.
Well, it would make sense.
Oh, there's a fence behind you.
Yeah, that's exact. Well, whatever. What are you gonna do? No, but I think that's notable because
I like that you're basically at like a tiki bar right now.
Right,
I feel
exactly.
like the
people are talking about this more and more. There's a subjective morality to it that allows the viewer, hopefully, to make their own decisions and to allow for, again, the character arc of the primary character to take all the information in and come to things to an informed place. And I think that's important. And like, it's doubly hilarious to have people completely missing the point and basically being like, well, this is objective. Oh, this is, sexualizing, hot baby. Like, okay, come on. That isn't what this is though. Like, well, and it's when you saw a 20-second preview. Okay. I get it.
Bikini Frankenstein. Let's move on.
When things are like given to you, when things are kind of given to you in a way that's open-ended, people take their own conclusions from it, and then you realize how
some of them are terrible. Yeah,
like how simple people's worldviews are. When it gives you a bunch of different things over the course of 2.5 hours and leaves you to kind of make your own, do your own research, people.
Right, precisely. Yes, excellent. Listen, everybody. Letterboxd, of course, is a film site. A social media site, if you will, for film lovers who talk at with and to each other about the opinions just expressed and many other ones as well. People talk about the movies that they love, maybe the movies they didn't love, maybe the movies that they thought were only sexy baby and nothing more. They're wrong, by the way, objectively. And of course, all this is best expressed succinctly. It's not just Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everyone gets to have their say, but everyone should say it quickly. And get through it, and what we do is collect them, and we react to them on the screen for the movie that we are covering. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Poor Things. Let's go. The Academy isn't cool enough to let this win Best Picture.
Yeah. I really think it's going to be Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I think so. But if you want to find out more about that, tune into the after party.
The Academy is like, all right, we'll allow 2 sex scenes, but not 50, and not a guy crab walking with his dong out.
It was the Best Picture in my mind. That was when it became Best Picture to me.
they're like, how is this guy, this guy with his dong out going to solve racism? It's not.
That was the day he became president.
At least never mind. I was going to make.
That was the day he became Oppenheimer.
There you go. Someone show this to the woman who hid her husband's eyes during Oppenheimer.
I saw that one. I was like, yeah. Oh my God, is that for me?
I was watching this at the same time that like the 50th round of Oppenheimer sex scene discourse started, and I was watching
God.
Poor Things, and I was like,
Exhausting.
anybody engaging in this that thinks unnecessary sex scenes are a thing is going to hate this movie
Yes.
so
Yeah.
fucking much.
And we were right.
Lo and behold, they did.
I
A
honestly
true
though,
success story.
I don't
The one
understand
thing I
how
will
like
say-
excessive. How can an excessive sex scene like be like there's just one scene in a film?
Because
I don't know.
normies don't appreciate the art of film.
So weird.
the
Also, that
I will say
person.
though, the one kind of the one sexy thing like people angry about it that I really loved and thought was hilarious. Indian, like older Indian men got mad that he said the quote from the Bag of Gita while he was naked, and they were like, "You don't do that. This is Hinduism. We cannot all these." So there was like this petition of like just older Indian gentlemen that were trying to get fucking Christopher Nolan to apologize to them.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like the only one I'll say about this. I do agree with Renee's point that like you could have had a little bit less Ruffalo. Like that's the only. I do like I can see that point. The other scenes I think are necessary, but there was a lot of Mark Ruffalo.
Counterpoint: they didn't show enough Mark Ruffalo.
There you go. There you go. There you go, everybody.
They should have done a fisheye crotch cam for Mark Ruffalo.
Yes. Bella, stop. You're too loca. Your pussy too powerful. Your swag too different. They'll kill you, Bella.
They're coming for you, Bella.
Now she fucking killed herself first.
Your pussy too powerful. I love that. You're so local.
I love that. Your pussy is so powerful.
Tattoo that right above my vulva.
Bella.
A moment of silence for anyone who watched this film with a relative.
I watched
Forrest.
it with my mom.
I
How'd that
watched it
go?
with my wife, like you're supposed to.
Yeah, that's fine.
I watched it with Forrest, like, and, like I was supposed to.
Watching the Discord was fun.
I would have loved to seen it, but I was sound checking. Thank God Emma Stone decided to only play freaks this year.
Oh,
Amen.
I think she's found a new avenue. She's gonna be playing some wild women. I can feel it.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah.
But looking at it, like even the dress that she wears, like when she's at the table and she's supposed to be, being prim and proper and only saying the three things that, of course, she did.
Marvelous! How delightful!
Yeah, like,
That was
my
so
mom's
good.
recovering from cancer, or my mom died from cancer. How delightful! But
Yeah.
even this fucking even this dress is reminiscent of like Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, agreed.
Very.
I don't think it's an accident. Traveling back in time to show this to Mary Shelley.
She's like, that French guy did what with his dong out?
What? I must go punch that baby.
Yes.
Seriously, I laughed out so fucking loud at that scene. It was gold.
It's so good. It's so good.
I felt that many times with my kids. Never actually punched them though.
But that also is like the thing is that like as she even as she grows up, like she doesn't have any impulse control, which is like
Right.
the thing with a kid too. And it's hilarious that she just says whatever comes out of her mouth because like
Yeah.
I feel that like.
Can we go back for a second? Can we give a shout out to the tags in that last one? So first of all, theaters, okay. Alamo Drafthouse, fine. 10 out of 10. Funny lol as a tag, okay. Go bad bitch, crown stars, and hot cast, and then like with
I
it's
agree.
really hot face.
Busted face.
Fire, fire, fire.
Just want to point that out. Good tag work there. This should be the first movie Barbie watches in the real world.
Oh, hell yeah. In a way, this film is almost like the anti-Barbie, if you think about it. Because Barbie does her own self-discovery of becoming a human.
Mark Ruffalo is also kind of like Ken in this.
Yeah, kind
A
of
little bit. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she's technically weirder Barbie, but like,
Speaking of which, Mark Ruffalo, stop giving me your toughest battles. God, you're my horniest soldier.
He tries to tongue kiss, like McCandles in the jail. I was like, what is this?
It's great.
He says, let me free you.
Speaking of which, yeah. Tag yourself. I'm the socialist lesbian whore.
Amen.
She eats pussy one time or gets her pussy ate one time, you know what I mean? Like, and then she's liberated. If you think about it.
That's how it works.
Living
You didn't
out
know
what
that?
women want.
That's how that works, apparently. Anyway, those are Letterboxd one-liners for Poor Things. Please follow the Letterboxd HQ account for Movie Night Extravaganza at Movie Night Extra. We are posting all of these stories of the mini movies that we cover. Feel free to chime in with the commentary, all the links, all that good stuff. Forrest McCandles over there at Always Flacco. Class consciousness intensifies, so does the stuff he logs on Letterboxd for you to peruse, or not to, not for me to say. I, of course, am Archibald McNeutron, MD, at Conan Neutron, watching the highbrow, the midbrow, the populist fair, all that kind of good stuff. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge, Film School Dropouts. I'm going to get back to that since I'm actually off tour, technically, as of last night. You can follow me over there. Kristina did log on recently. I know, because I liked your review. It looks like I'm hitchhiking now, but anyway, whatever. At Kristina on Letterboxd, giving herself happiness and giving you happiness to read her lovely words on Letterboxd.
I mean, I gotta pinpoint one of my friends, Adrian. She got me a very nice vibrator, and I've been using it a lot. So kudos.
Look, you're about to just
You're
show
getting a
us.
free
All right. There you go.
He tried to grab my hairy business.
Let the record show. J. Andrew World. J. Andrew sailing around the world. Speaking of hairy business. At right about now, too, he's watching all the weirder stuff so you don't have to. Maybe you can. Not for me to say. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that he's doing it. Still working through that Doctor Who filmography, discography.
Yeah.
What is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah,
you're doing.
I'm on the 4th Doctor now, and it's great. It's like peak Doctor Who. He doesn't get any better than this.
So if you want to see Andrew World logging Doctor Who episodes on a site ostensibly about film, go to Letterboxd and follow him on there because he's doing it. Renee Ruin down there, always one of our favorite people to talk about film. She technically speaking has a Letterboxd account. You can follow there at Renee Ruin as well. Let's take a moment from our sponsors here before we go to the plugs in general.
Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Jebiga, a Balkan Rakia spirit plum brandy that brings Serbia to the American shores in an authentic and appreciative way. Care of Billy Gould, bassist for Faith No More, and Rakia Appreciator. Rakia is a traditional spirit enjoyed at weddings, funerals, and life events. However, more and more it's being enjoyed everywhere on a night out with friends or as a casual drink. Get a bottle today in liquor stores and bars across America. Go to yabiga.com to see where it's available near you.
There you go. J. Andrew World, hairy business, as I call him. That's my nickname for him. Please take it away with the plugs, why don't you?
All right. You're watching us on YouTube. Please do those YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And of course, the big ask is to watch our video right to the end. That allows other movie fans to find our content, but that also allows you to hear that great Conan Neutron song.
That's right.
If you're over on Twitch, do the Twitch thing. Throw us a sub. We'll catch it. And you can subscribe for free. Doesn't cost you anything if you have an Amazon Prime account. So if you can do that, please do that. Yeah, we have.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
What episode is this? 206? No,
You haven't
Yeah,
got
my
it down
trans-
yet.
I'm working on it.
Maybe in the 300s we'll get there.
Yes.
Who knows?
Tina did it once and she got it right away.
Well, maybe you should fire me. No.
To be fair, I probably wouldn't be able to do it, Andy, so don't worry.
Yeah. Find us on social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Threads.
I don't
And
think I have
Blue
the
Sky.
power.
Yeah,
I don't
there
think
we
I have
go.
the power to fire anybody, even if I wanted to.
And Blue Sky, yeah, they'll keep showing up. It'll be like Office Space. Let's keep showing up and doing the plugs. Anyone will listen.
But yeah, find us over there.
I'm imagining like a homeless Andy, and he's just standing outside of like a fucking store, and he's
We'll
like,
plug for food.
No, he has like the fucking Salvation Army bell, and he's like, follow us on Twitch, hit that bell, follow us on YouTube.
Spare change. Okay.
Super chats. Anybody got super chats?
Fantastic. I have no notes. Next, Andy.
All right. Yeah, we have a Discord. Find our Discord. I think
Yes.
there's a link somewhere, probably.
In the description box.
What? If only there was some way to know.
Down below. If you're
Yeah,
watching
right
from
below
YouTube.
us. There's going to be a
Jesus
link.
H. Christ.
Join the Discord.
What manner of show is this?
One that's falling apart quickly. We have a
Yeah,
Patreon.
you're telling me.
We have a Patreon. If you want to support this craziness right here, we have a Patreon that allows you to get access to our after parties, which we're going to be doing one tonight, right after this show.
Goddamn straight.
We're going through, well, and Renee too. I think we're going through the gauntlet of, of all the fucking picks.
I don't know if it's a gauntlet or not, but we're definitely going through everyone's Oscar picks. We're doing who they think will win and who they want to have win the various categories.
That's the gauntlet.
Last edition.
Yeah. And if you want to see everybody else's picks, become a subscriber on our Patreon and get access and watch some of those, because those are some fun times.
Yes.
Those are some fun times.
Those are some fun times. And of course,
stop thinking about it. Start acting on it, Skull Dragon. Get on it. Thank you. Peace and love.
Conan Neutron's up there wrapping up his tour with his band Conan Neutron.
I thought you for a second you said wrapping up a storm. And yeah. Like, Conan's about to drop a wrap.
I'm rapping, straight rapping. Yeah. No, I'm not.
No, but he's wrapping up his tour.
Tour's over. Yeah. Tour's. I'm shooting some photos for the album cover now. And,
I mean, you're not home yet, so it kind of feels like you're still on tour.
Yeah, it's without all the hassle of playing the shows. I'm doing every other part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the tour was wonderful. It was great. Actually, more folks than I expected that watched this show or engaged with the show came out, and it was great meeting everyone in person. That was lovely.
People engaged with the show.
What?
They engaged with me. I don't know about you, but
yeah. Well, you're probably the most famous person on this panel, so.
Well, I'm the head of the class of the Special Olympics. Exactly.
Yes.
Nothing? Okay. All right.
Sorry, you can.
Conan,
no, it's great.
Don't worry, you're a pretty retard. So.
Hey, I thought that's my nickname.
Yeah, no, great meeting Maddie, Kira, like all the folks that Chris Wade came out of the show too. Ben Burgess, he's been on the show, right? Yeah. Dan from the internet coming on May-ish, something like that. I don't know. I'm not looking at it.
Get us on Chavo.
It's been threatening to have me on. Anyway, do it.
Yeah, and of course, if you missed seeing Conan, you can actually go to neutronfriends.bandcamp.com and get some music and listen to it.
Also, if you're in any of these cities, we're playing Madison, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Louisville, Chicago, Minneapolis for Caterwaull, and Madison again with Brainiac. And I think Sioux Falls, Iowa is actually being added on as well. So that's all in May. So that's the new tour poster. East Coast, sure, maybe fall. We'll see. Notice how I answered somebody that like nobody was saying anything, and I answered as if somebody was. It's a pro tip.
Nice. Also, of course, if you're not getting enough Conan Neutron in your diet, there's also Protonic Reversal.
Why is everything landing? Why is everything landing on dead silence? Oh my god! Sorry, I can't.
That's part of the
gotta freeze through that. Like,
look, you're not getting enough vitamins. You need a little Conan Neutron in your diet.
It's part of a balanced breakfast. Yeah,
no, it's
sure.
It's the more the fact that everything that is coming out, it's just then stops and everyone says more so than what's actually being said.
I'm gonna throw a rope. Here and say Protonic Reversal back on schedule on Thursday. Yeah, Norm Westberg from Swan's episode going up shortly for the free feed, but Patreon. I feel the same way, Renee. Just to be clear, Patreon.com.
Do the show an hour later, like.
I guess so. Patreon.com/Protonic Reversal, $1 a month for advanced episodes. I was literally in a cave, otherwise we could have done it on time. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's a very nice cave. Thank you. What else?
Conan, I really need you to have like a big blue or like pink drink, like a fucking tiki drink that you're.
Yeah, come on, man. Gotta get into it.
Okay.
Well, you can also. Since Kristina is over there on Twitch. You can find her over there.
Did we just let a homeless man in and just let what happened?
You rang?
What a time to be alive.
Oh my god. What
Ah.
happened today? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know what's going on.
For those, I'm streaming right now, and I'll be doing last minute Oscar predictions on Saturday, and then Sunday, of course, we have our big Oscar stream, which I'll stream also on here too. Maybe Twitch will be like, we're gonna ban her. Oh, she actually doesn't have the actual Oscars on, so that's how we're gonna, circumvent their DMCA bullshit.
I made it look so fucking
obvious.
official. Like, no, I made it look so, like, I literally just have like a picture from the Oscars, like of Oscars, and I was like, Oscars 2024 live stream, and I literally went out of my, and it did like, I think I did like 20 hashtags of like Oscars 2024, like exactly what I did.
Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Barbie, that.
But I made sure to do it in a way that there's no way that anyone can be able to tell if they don't know that it's our show.
Yeah,
you're really leaning into it, aren't you?
Yes,
it worked so well last time. We got like 900 views at once.
You know that you do know, I think we've already had this discussion, but you know that it's Cillian Murphy, not Killian, right?
No, it's Killian.
No. It's Scottish. It's Cillian.
Well,
that's what she calls him.
Killian.
Okay.
Tell Killian that then. Tell him he's been I thought he was Killian the whole time.
Andy, we don't need you doing bits. We need you moving this bit along. Come on, let's go.
Okay. Right after him. With a K.
Yeah, so also Kristina has a Patreon if you want to support Kristina. Patreon.com/cosmopolitics.
There you go.
Yep.
There we go. And Renee,
give her some happiness.
Cillian.
Yes.
Killian, yeah, you're right.
If Kristina had gotten that wrong, like
I just deadass would have just.
I'm like, hang on a minute, because I've had the argument with about bazillion people in the last month alone. So I'm like, hang on a minute, did I say the right one or the wrong one? Anyway,
it's Killian.
If Kristina had gotten that wrong, it's basically like her life's work that would have fallen.
Yo, he's on red carpet. They're like, Cillian, look this way. And I'm like, you motherfuckers still don't know how to pronounce his name? My God.
Kylian, look this way.
Hold on.
I barely get that mad when people mispronounce my name, let alone someone else. And it happens a lot. Thank you.
Conan Murphy.
Conan Murphy? Conan Neutron?
Conan Murphy. Get down to the bar, Conan. We need to do something.
Look, I'm ready to go to the bar right now. You don't need to entice me.
You're at the bar right now. You're at the tiki bar.
Exactly. Where do you think I'm at?
But Renee, do you have
how about the plugs for Renee? We wait.
Oh my God.
Like
Andy took the day off today, guys. It's cool.
Too busy sailing around the world.
So many other things, but Renee is over there hosting her show, Night something.
What? You're not ready? You're not ready?
Oh my God, Andy! What?
Are you kidding me?
I love it.
I don't know when he does
Bonnie
this.
Burton and Jenna Hayes.
Thank you. When he does this, I actually don't know if it's a bit or not. I'm not convinced anymore because I've convinced it's gone the other way, and then like, no, it can't possibly be. No, it has to be. I don't know.
What a pretty retard.
You're doing Girl Walks Home at Night.
Yes, right? Yeah. So
fantastic film.
Yeah, on the 23rd of March. Yeah, we're doing A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. It's going to be a really fun one. And then on the 30th, I'm back here to talk about one of my childhood faves, Picnic at Hanging Rock.
That's right. Yes. Looking forward to that one.
It's going to be good. And that's it for the moment. I'm a little living that boring 9-to-5 life. So I got to squeeze it in when I have.
I just watched this movie, Poor Things, where they felt like there was something transcendent, besides the 9-to-5 life.
That's right.
Science,
9 to 5. What a way
liberation.
to live.
Not boning Mark Ruffalo.
Poor things.
It ain't nothing but a poor thing.
Mark Ruffalo actually lives in the next town over for me. Like, he lives in the Sopus, and he's been getting
too.
Well, he's been getting millions of dollars of film subsidies here, because he wants to film near his house. So he lives there. So they even filmed parts of like the Marvel movies now, like around like my house, and he had an HBO show that he did. He brought the HBO show to Sopus. So he's like making everyone that he wants to work with like come to him upstate.
Honestly, I respect that.
Yeah, well, you have to get to a certain position, I feel like, to be able to do that. It's
Oh
like a flex.
yes, you do.
Yeah, it's like a flex to be like, just come to my house. I live in a beautiful area. They shot like one scene of Avengers, I think it was Endgame, like at like a mansion kind of thing near Sopus that they found, and I tried to figure out which one it was, and I couldn't. But Renee, do you have final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've lost all my brain cells in the last 10 to 15 minutes. But no, like I mean, yeah, like I said, I think this film is like, it's definitely my favorite film by this director, for sure. Definitely my favorite Emma Stone film. And like I said, it's just, not only is it just, you know, hilarious, and there's so much like absurdity in the hilarity, which I love. It's also just, I love the way they've built this world. And, you know, we have a character that seems like she's trapped in this other world, and then watching her break free from that is just really, I don't know, liberating to watch. And just, damn it, the movie is just fun, and it's stunningly beautiful. Like I said, I can just sit there and watch this and not even hear the dialogue, and it's just stunning to look at. And then, yeah, like I said, the way it's shot, amazing. The acting, amazing. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't really have, like I said, the only thing I'd say is maybe we could have had a little less of those Mark scenes that I didn't think we needed to. I mean, I know he can do all the positions, but do we really need to see it? So, you know, like,
didn't need them demonstrated. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's really it. But like, aside from that, like, I think, you know, I think that it's a really, really well done, greatly filmed, like, just, yeah, it's just hilarious. Like, I think people think it's like some kind of dark, dingy, dirty like thing, and it's not. It's a laugh riot, and I think that that's been left out in a lot of the reviews. Is like, you know, I mean, I think my dad, you know, like I said, he switched off, and I think he said, when I said to him why, I'm like, I was a bit too, like, I was just like, is it a bit too arty for you, Dad? And he was like, yeah, not quite my thing. And I was like, yeah, too arty for Dad. But like, it's not. It's just, I think that, you know, I think, yeah, just people need to go in this with an open mind, and just, they will get so much more out of it. And I think people are judging it by what they've read, and maybe, you know, like half, you know, a minute's worth of a friggin' trailer, and they think they can sum it all up. And, you know,
it's not that.
Don't do that, because yeah, and just the discourse around everything that is being discussed, all of the issues, not to mention just all these interactions and little things. Like I said, there's still things that I'd love to think don't exist, but they do. And that's another reason why it's important for, you know, filmmakers to be making films like this and continuing to push, you know, a discourse around the things that are still happening, that nothing is changing. You know, and as Conan pointed out, I know there's a lot of people out there who just don't want to be pushed, but, you know, people need to be pushed, and that's why films like this and directors like this exist. And, you know, that to me is the exciting part about film, is being able to see things that you don't always see, and to get that experience of someone actually making you look at as perspective or experience something differently. And that pushes you to somehow look or think or reflect upon yourself or what you believe in, and, you know, life. That's what great art is, and that's what I think, you know, a great film is. So I think he achieved that.
You know what line's really funny in this that we didn't touch on, that cracks me up every time? When he's explaining it, like the process, like putting her together, and he's talking to fucking like McCandles about it or whatever, and he's like, what I had to do was obvious, and he's like, yeah, what was that? And he's like, open up her head, put the baby's brain in there, and then sew her head back up. And he's like, oh, fucking Jesus. Like,
that's not obvious at all. Yeah.
To him, it's like the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah. It's great. It's good exchange.
But like the way that fucking Willem Dafoe says that, like really fast, like as if it's the most obvious thing you've ever heard, is like that
So matter of factly.
I do think he should have been nominated for supporting, but whatever. That's
Kristina, final
we'll get into
thought.
the after party.
Final thoughts. So yeah,
Final
when I
thoughts.
first heard about this movie and like saw like clips and like initial reviews about Emma Stone, I was like, oh, definitely contender for Oscar for sure. And then finally seeing the movie, I'm like, oh my god, this is probably one of my favorite movies, like, of all time, because Yorgos Lanthimos is a fucking genius when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to humor, when it comes to emotions, conveying feelings and nuances that, you know, very few actresses could probably express. I don't think anyone could portray Bella. This is Emma Stone's role, and it's probably going to be one of her best role ever. I don't know if she's probably going to do so many wonderful things, but I feel like Bella Baxter is finally her saying, I'm an adult. You know, I can act, I can do, you know, debauchery, I can do so many other things. I can produce, I can do this, I can do that. And we get to see Mark Ruffalo in a sleazy role. We get to see Willem Dafoe play a god, if you will. Someone who conveys feelings and emotions, very parental feelings. The set design, the music, the cinematography, everything about this film was phenomenal. And I feel like, again, if like films like Dune 2 had come out, then it would have been a very tough between Dune 2, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. I do feel like Poor Things and Oppenheimer are probably the top like contenders for Oscars, but we shall see.
All right, Andy, try to make it through this.
All right. You know, there's two painters I absolutely adore, and one of them is a J.M.W. Turner, who mostly paints like sunsets and boats and stuff like that. He's like a proto impressionist painter, and you can see his paintings in the in the film, especially his watercolors. Whenever you first start to get color in the film, which was absolutely incredible. But then you also see a bit of Tom Kidd, specifically his Nemo paintings. Tom Kidd did a series of steampunk paintings signed as a fictional artist named Nemo, spelled with a silent G, and they are incredible to look at. I think he has most of them up on his website, so if you want to check any of that stuff out. But it was incredible to actually see something that visually took two of my favorite artists and like mashed them together on screen in such an incredible way that beyond all the other incredible things of like the lenses, the use of gradually ratcheting up the color and stuff like that, or just the use of color. Everything about this movie is just great, but it's also just like
so crazy. They tried so many lenses too. Like, yeah. Hearing the list of like, oh, we tried 50 lenses, we just couldn't get it right.
But yeah, that's my favorite thing about this movie that really doesn't need to be said anything more about, other than check those painters out if you don't know them.
All right. Turn this show off and go do that.
go turn the show off. Go stare at paintings. Conan, final thoughts.
Yeah, body hilarious. Beautifully shot and acted. I think almost every film I know of that's been even slightly influenced by Frankenstein shows that influence worse than a Tuesday blues rock band playing Aerosmith. Not this, though. And this is fearless. It's extraordinary. That's how I characterize it. It's audacious, exhilarating. I think Bella's arc is astounding. You really start off thinking it's going to be one thing, and ends up being something else entirely, with an incredible bonus round that makes this a one for the ages. And again, I want to reiterate too, it was unexpected to me originally how hilarious this is. This is very funny. And some of the funnier moments are sex related. And so prudes be gone. You are banished hereforth. Mm-hmm. The production design, as mentioned, is first rate, and Yorgos has never been better. And here, it's my favorite movie of his. It's the best version I think he's done. There's shades of Lynch, Gilliam, Janot, Kaufman, Little Women, Gerwig. And Emma Stone is astounding in this. What could have been like doofy sex spot cosplay evolves into something incredibly special. And it's funny that we just did a thing on artificial intelligence not that long ago, right? So I feel like it's like the same sort of thing, like watching like the machine learning, except for the fact in this case the machine is a person. Cannot overstate how great Ruffalo being a sleaze is in this. He's a delightful sleaze. I hope he gets more chances to stretch out that way. I think it's amongst the best of a very strong year. Every nomination is totally earned, and it was a thrill to cover this tonight.
Yeah. I had something I wanted to add to that. Oh, I went over this in my like Letterboxd review or whatever, but it's like at this point we've had Young Frankenstein, Blackenstein, Bride of Frankenstein,
Bikini Frankenstein.
We had you can even
Frankenhooker.
You can even go back to fucking Lewis, like whatever, like like the like silent movie fucking stars, like right. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Like that's how many different Frankenstein. So hard to like add something new to it. And this movie does it very well, but it's like it's kind of funny that we're at that point. It's like if it's not like, you know, whatever you're doing, like if you don't have anything new to add to it, don't make Frankenstein. Make something new. Like we know
that's different.
We're the monsters.
Oh, Lisa
Okay?
Frankenstein just came out.
That's the monster. It's us. We know that.
Yeah, I do want to see that. And by the way, everybody, hang out if you're interested. It's our last. This is our last Oscar night extravaganza episode for 2023 before the special. So you're gonna hear Andy and Forrest give their picks. So if you're interested in hearing more about that,
we got this going, and then we got Doing Your Dad. You know, like
exactly. That's coming up as well. So we are doing that next week. Unfortunately, Renee will not be able to join us. She will cast her ballot in absentia. So.
Is that what Joe Biden has? Absentia? Oh no, that's dementia.
Oh, come on. Come on. Boo.